No. Hey everybody, tonight we're debating flat Earth versus globe Earth, and we are starting right now with PhDTony and Phil's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us, gentlemen. Phil, the floor is all yours for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, so let's go for it. First of all, hello everybody. That means all the fence sitters and the flat earthers as well, and the normal folk. Well, the shape of Earth is not open to debate. Humans have known that the Earth is a globe for over 2,500 years. Now, before I continue, I'll just share my screen so that we can follow this with it. All right. Okay. So, James, if you can just zoom in on the relevant section there.
You bet. There it is, crystal clear, ready for you.
So over 2,500 years, we've known that that the Earth is a globe. Okay. All right. So contrary to lies from the grifters, the longitude and latitude coordinates were using spherical geometry by Hipparchus as early as 2,160 years ago. So it's not a recent event. Now, the final experiment expedition, which includes both an assortment of flat earthers and normal people, also included 16 or so experiments and observations that categorically falsify any version of flat Earth, particularly the one that's referred to as the azimuthal equidistant projection. So naturally, rusted-on victims and grifters of the flat Earth community are running around like headless chickens, proffering any absurd conspiracy theory to discredit the final experiment. But more about later in the show. So why am I here? I could traverse all the moral imperatives. However, my objective is not to convince these typical people that Earth is flat. The Earth is not flat. But to talk directly to those fence sitters on the verge of becoming victims, to one or more grifters chomping at the bit to relieve them of their hard-earned money in exchange for misinformation, science denialism, and flat Earth snake oil. Now, firstly, we're appealing to what is left of your sense of self-respect and your dignity, because victims of flat Earth eventually possess neither of these. Secondly, if you do not detest being mocked and marginalized by acquaintances, by your friends, by family and workmates, because you openly proselytize and parrot absurdities like Earth is flat and space is fake, then our message is directed squarely at you. Thirdly, do you really want to cheat your own children out of the opportunity to participate at the cutting edge of science just to protect a fragile ego? To that end, we cannot save everyone. So we're appealing to those rare few amongst you who would credit yourself of having some basic intelligence and a normal human capacity developed from birth to make simple deductions and evaluate the consequences of those deductions as they apply to reality. If you are an authentic fence sitter in this space, then please listen carefully to PhDTony and me and ignore the misinformation, trickery, semantics, and evasive tactics that ensue in this discourse. So without doubt, you will have heard these two claims being chanted incessantly. One, the Earth is measured flat. We see no evidence of that. Two, celestial navigation. The Nautical Almanac and GPS works on flat Earth. So let's use these two claims to build a model that flat earthers are pretending to disavow. If Earth is measured flat, then celestial navigation works. Then the following are undeniable. Okay, Polaris determines one's latitude, and the distance between each degree of latitude is 69.1 statute miles in concentric circles around the North Pole. I'm going to try and share my that particular slide so that you can see it. Okay. So you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so you can see this here over here as an example. Okay, let's get back here. Okay, the furthest north that the sun tracks the North Pole in a circle in late June is 23.4 degrees north, being the Tropic of Cancer. During the equinox, the sun tracks the equator at 0 degrees latitude in late March and late September. In late December, the sun tracks 23.4 degrees south of the Tropic of Capricorn, 24 degrees south, around the Tropic of Capricorn, as per celestial navigation and the nautical almanac. Now, GPS coordinates also show that latitudes extend as concentric circles away from the equator as far as 90 degrees. So from the North Pole, 180 degrees times 69.1 miles is 12,438 miles of alleged flat Earth. Longitudes extend radially from the North Pole to 90 degrees south. Remember, fence sitters, the claims that you have no doubt heard, loud and clear. The Earth is measured flat and celestial navigation works. So to you, fence sitters with a normal aptitude for deductive reasoning, here is the undeniable consequence of the two initial claims constantly parroted by flat earthers. So let's complete it. Let's see what all of that would actually look like with all those concentric circles. In fact, it would look just like the equidistance, the azimuthal equidistant map. Okay, so now that we've established that the sun tracks the Tropic of Capricorn in December, then people like me and Flazoid, who live south of the Tropic of Capricorn, could never see the sun while facing south. Not at sunrise, not during the day, and not at sunside. On a flat Earth, the sun would approach from the north of east as a tiny bright dot, travel horizontally throughout the day, never overhead, and then progressively get smaller and disappearing as a tiny bright dot north of west. In fact, anyone who lives south of the Tropic of Capricorn, including Flazoid, who actually measured the sunrise bearing, he measured it at 160 degrees or 185 degrees south, will attest to the fact that in December, the sun rises south of east and sets south of west. This completely and utterly falsifies any version of flat Earth that also asserts the celestial navigation works. Fence-sitters, with simple powers of deduction, this falsification of flat Earth must be a no-brainer for you. Even Dave from SSUM agrees. We'll listen to his spiel later on. I'll talk to you later. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opening. We will kick it over to PhDTony. Thank you so much for being with us. PhDTony, the floor is all yours. Oh, I think we have you on mute. Let me just double check that I've got you.
Oh, sorry.
There
I don't know. Okay, there it is. Just let me share my screen with you. Is that coming through? Okay, sorry. All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, this isn't. Okay, flat earthers like to say that they don't see curvature, and I think that's because they don't really understand what curvature is. Curvature is the change in the angle of a tangent or normal vector to the surface as you move along the surface. This is exactly what we see on the Earth. When you move a fixed distance towards or away from the ground point of a celestial object, the elevation angle of that object changes by a fixed amount. This is the definition of curvature, radians per kilometer. On a flat Earth, that wouldn't happen because the tangent function is nonlinear. The other effect of curvature is that objects come into view top first and bottom last. This is what we see with ships, for instance, going across the horizon. Flat earthers claim that we see too far. How far you see is a function of two variables. One variable is optical conditions due to the atmosphere, and the other variable is geometry. Just because one variable affects how far you see does not mean that geometry doesn't exist. That's not a valid syllogism. The other experiment that flat earthers like to appeal to are laser sightings, where they shine a laser over a salt lake and they pick it up on a mirror and they claim that therefore there can't be curvature. What they're overlooking is that the laser beam disperses as it moves through the atmosphere and is much wider than it was when it started. So this experiment actually lacks the ability to distinguish between the two hypotheses, which is sad because they put a lot of effort into it. So let's look at a data set that can distinguish between the two possibilities. If we know the latitude and longitude of 2 points on Earth's surface, then we know how far each of them is from the North Pole, a simple matter of 111 kilometers per degree, and we know the angle that they subtend at the North Pole. Using this data, we can solve for the length of the third side between them, and we can also solve for the bearing from one to the other. We can also do the same using a spherical triangle. This is the spherical triangle formula, and you will see the formula here, which is that middle red one, shows that the distance is simply the angle in degrees times 111 kilometers or 69 miles. This is exactly what we observe. We can confirm this by looking at physical phenomena like the propagation of earthquakes. Here, for instance, we're looking at the Macquarie Rise earthquake from 2004. We're starting at 5.5 minutes after the earthquake, and you can see the earthquake is radiating outwards in a roughly circular pattern, and it has made it all the way across Antarctica within 10 minutes of the earthquake occurring. Now, if the azimuthal equidistant map were correct, that would mean that it skirted around the edge of the azimuthal equidistant. You can see that little blue dot at the bottom of South America. That's completely unphysical. There's no physical mechanism for that. Another consequence of the azimuthal equidistant map, which is the only map that gets distance from the North Pole correct, so it must be the flat Earth map, there is no alternative, is that distances along arcs of fixed longitudinal width increase in length as you move southwards. Whereas the globe models suggest that the length of these arcs decreases as you move away from the equator. So we can test this. We can look at east-west railway lines, one in Australia, one in the US. Both are approximately east-west. They're at approximately the same latitude, north and south. And we can see that, if anything, the length per unit longitude is shorter for the southern hemisphere rather than the northern hemisphere. This directly contradicts the flat Earth model. We can confirm our distance calculations by looking at plane flight trajectories, the length, the fuel use of intercontinental shipping and the way that they navigate. We have been using spherical trigonometry to navigate in intercontinental craft for more than 300 years. This is a sailing manual from the 17th century. We can also look at the lengths of submarine cables, which are very expensive. So if you get the length wrong, somebody is out a lot of money. Here we can look at the submarine cable connecting Sydney and Seattle, and we can see that the cable length is just a bit longer than the spherical distance, but it doesn't agree well with the flat Earth distance. We can look again at the earthquake data, and here we can see on the left, it's spread out in a roughly circular pattern from the epicenter, and on the right, it's converging on the antipodal point in a circular fashion. And indeed, this is a pattern that is widely observed in Rayleigh waves, which are a type of surface wave. They get picked up by the receiver on the first, then they go all the way around to the South Pole, and then they come back. They are picked up again at the receiver, and then they cross again. And for large earthquakes, this can happen half a dozen times. I'm going to move on now to another claim the flat earthers like to make, which is that there is no evidence of rotation. This is untrue. In the early 19th century, Ferdinand Reich dropped balls down a 160-meter mine shaft near Munich, and he was able to observe an average eastern deflection in very close agreement with the theoretical value. Leon Foucault developed the Foucault pendulum, but he also developed a mechanical gyroscope that he used to measure Earth rotation. He sped it up to 200 revolutions per second using this gear system. Now, a gyroscope on a rotating body will experience tilt, but it will also precess. Both of these are observed. In the early 20th century, Compton developed what's called the Compton generator, which is a water-filled glass toroid, which you spin along a vertical axis, and the water starts moving. If Earth was stationary, that would be unexplainable. You can also, in the later 20th century, they developed superfluid gyroscopes that measured the rate of flow of liquid helium through the aperture in the toroid. This again confirms rotation. Magnetically levitated balls appear to rotate relative to the laboratory and in very close agreement with rotation. You can use microelectromechanical gyroscopes have been used to measure Earth rotation. The most popular one nowadays is the ring laser gyroscope, where the path length of the counter-propagating lasers produces interference patterns. Here's an example from Germany. You can see at the top, the model predictions are in red, the observed predictions are in black. You will notice that the rate of rotation is changing. This is because of Earth's this is because of an annual signal in Earth's movement, but also there are tidal effects that have a duration there of 2 weeks. This is a larger facility, the Romy facility in Germany. It's got 15 meters on a side. But you can also use matter wave gyroscopes to detect Earth's rotation as well. Another observation that demonstrates Earth rotation is the use of gyrocompasses. These are machines where the flywheel is held at high speed by an electric motor, and the flywheel will orient itself so that it points, so that it is parallel to Earth's axis of rotation. These things have been used in shipping for over a century. They align themselves perfectly north-south. They are not affected by magnetics. So they're very useful if you're on a metal ship. Another demonstration is if you look at a weather map here taken from earlier last year in the US, you will notice these little wind markings. And you will also notice that there's a high pressure system in the south, warm pressure in the north. Now, if you map these up, you will see that the wind flows parallel to the isobars. But that's not what we would expect. We would expect that it would flow directly from the high system to the low system. But instead, what we observe is that as the wind travels, it is deflected to the right in the northern hemisphere, to the left in the southern hemisphere. And this is why our tropical storm systems go counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. We can see the same phenomenon in tropical storm paths. They tend to deflect to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the south in the southern hemisphere. And we see the same behavior in ocean gyres. Here you can see in the northern hemisphere, the ocean gyres go clockwise. In the southern hemisphere, they go counterclockwise. More than that, we can see that the currents on the western edge of the oceans are systematically stronger than the currents on the eastern edge. This is true for the Gulf Stream, the Kuroshio current, the Agulhas current. So what that tells us is that there's a strong deflection effect in the north and a very weak deflection effect in the south when we're in the northern hemisphere, and a strong deflection effect to the pole and a weak deflection. So if we look at the mathematics of how this works, we can see that the Coriolis acceleration tangential to, orthogonal to a body's motion is proportional to sine theta. So it is largest at the poles and small, vanishingly small, near the equator, exactly in agreement with the observations. So this is evidence that Earth does rotate and that we understand well that it rotates. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opening. And folks, before we jump into the openings from the Flat Earth side, I want to let you know, if it's your first time here, I'm your host, Dr. James. We are a fully neutral platform at Modern Day Debate. We want you to feel welcome, no matter what walk of life you are from. We are glad that you are here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as we have many more debates coming up in the future. And with that, we will kick it over to Matthew. I think I accidentally deactivated. Let me just fix this here. Matthew, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I want to give thanks to the creator of heaven and earth, the Messiah, and everyone involved here with Modern Day Debate. Thank you, James. Thank you to Tacori, PhDTony, and Professor Bell for all being here. And I would like to just get right into it about this flat earth versus globe. And I appreciate the openings from the two gentlemen representing the globe. But I feel the only thing wrong is they need to put that onto a flat, non-rotating plane, and then everything about what they're doing would make more logical sense and match the observational data. But yeah, I respect you two gentlemen. I look forward to our conversation. And I would like to get into more about this flat earth. And I would like to make a big shout out to all the real flat earthers out there. I don't know what it is, but flat earth seems to be the biggest threat to the new world order. And I just absolutely commend every real flat earther. I'm amazed at you guys. I'm amazed at all the videos you're making exposing this alleged final experiment. You guys are great. Flat earthers, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. This, I don't know, the controllers of this world, psyop agents. I don't know why there's so much censorship against flat earth. I don't know why there's so much hate speech against flat earth. I don't know why flat earthers are getting harassed so much and getting threatened and stuff like that. To me, the best phrase to describe it is you get the most flack when you're above the target. So I say I don't mind coming to these debates. I don't mind getting treated bad by these people, but these gentlemen are going to be nice tonight. But yeah, other flat earthers are getting treated worse than me. And whatever the thing is, flat earth is the biggest threat to the new world order. And I just absolutely want to make that the biggest point of my presentation, that keep doing what you're doing. Of course, we disagree about little things. We have different ideas about the lights above us and what's happening. Yes, of course. But the one thing that is uniting us is that we're all honest enough to say that the earth is flat and it's not moving. I don't know why that's such a threat. If it was so stupid, what would it matter? Like if I say that, yeah, you know what? I think the earth is flat and I don't think it's moving. Yeah, I think NASA's lying. What would that matter? Why would people be so upset that presidents and leaders, world leaders, would be mocking flat earth? What would, if, like, to me, if it was just some dumb issue, I wouldn't even bring it up. But I think that's the main thing. I just want to say, flat earthers, just keep doing what you're doing. Do not be discouraged. And I can understand why you do not want to be on debate shows or do anything like that associated with globers. You've seen how much hate they have, how they want to mock you and humiliate you publicly on live streams, how uncalled for it is. Imagine if it was against Black people or Catholic people or vegan people. Could you imagine how quickly any of these social media pages would be shut down? immediately if they were to attack any other group. But you have to ask yourself, what is it about flat Earth that is such a threat? Right? The thing uniting people. And I think it really is God uniting the people against the New World Order. Because people that are still believing the globe, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we have to find the curvature, of course, that 8 inches per mile squared. We could try to find that. We could try to find that 1,000 miles per hour rotation. I've never felt that in my life. I've never felt like I was going 1,000 miles an hour. We could look for that tilt, that axial tilt that doesn't exist. We could look at Polaris every night of the year for decades. We could watch it in its place. But yeah, I respect the Globers. I'm not trying to hate on any Globers. I'm not trying to throw disrespect on any of you guys because I used to be a Glober. I'm honest about that. Okay? So it's just the paradigm is over. With the best technology, all of the best, latest equipment, everything, the best computers that we have. Unfortunately, it turned out that the Earth is flat and stationary, right? I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to go to the moon if the moon was a place that we could land on? Guys, I would go. I don't like flying, but if I could get to the moon, I'd go there. Or whatever, outer space. If we could go float around in outer space, right? But it's not real. The Earth is a closed system, right? And I don't need to rant on this forever. I don't need the whole 10 minutes. So I think I'll pass it over now to Tacori, if that's okay.
We're ready
Is
for you,
that all
Tacori.
right, James? I'm going to pass it over with whatever time I got left. I'll just...
James,
Yes,
you're muted. Okay.
we're ready for you, Tacori.
Okay, can I get a screen share?
Yes. You just have to do that on your side, though. There you go. Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah,
Perfect.
ready? You hear my voice?
Ready.
Do you hear me clear?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so here's the problem with the globe Earth model. The globe Earth model has a lot of inconsistencies with it. Like I give you the prime example. You literally have different type of inconsistent measurements for different type of continents on their Earth that's inconducive with their maps. Like here's one of Antarctica right here. As you could pay attention, Antarctica is not even big as South America on their model. But yet on this one right here that PhDTony just showed, we could clearly see Antarctica stretching all the way from South America all the way up to North America. So how big is Antarctica really if your map is going conducive with your model? Is it bigger than is Antarctica bigger than the north and the southern hemisphere combined, or is it smaller than South America? Which one is it? You cannot have an inconsistency with your model. So here's the thing. They also talked about not the Coriolis effect, but the Foucault's pendulum. And the Foucault's pendulum is not due to the rotation of the Earth. The Foucault's pendulum is actually due to oscillation. And oscillation is a back and forth motion that happens when objects are displaced that they get away from their equilibrium. This is why you would never see a globe Earth to actually take the Foucault's pendulum and actually start it off at its equilibrium and let the motion of the Earth actually move. Mind you, they only had one experiment in 400 years for one type of motion of the Earth, but they didn't have it for the other motions that deal with the revolutionary speeds of the Earth or the motion of the Earth that is actually moving throughout space. We actually have anemometers that actually detect wind speed that will have to account for the Earth's curvature that doesn't actually show 1,000 miles an hour moving winds if the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour and the atmosphere is supposedly moving with it. We should be getting thousands of miles an hour winds moving constantly. Not only just that, but everything will be displaced from its equilibrium to one side because the earth is constantly spinning at one side of the earth. But yet we got Foucault's pendulums that's constantly rocking back and forth. And if you're in a certain position of the earth, the Foucault's pendulum is not going to even move conducive to the map. I mean, to their model, because their model is only moving in one. Yeah, their model is only moving in one direction to the east, but yet you got the Foucault's pendulum moving west and eastward. Now look at this. Here's a swing. This swing is constantly, it's not even moving. Now, if the earth was moving, wouldn't you think the earth would be moving that swing? But the earth needs our help to be able to make this move, I mean, this sun swing. But I guess the earth's motion, which is at 1,000 miles an hour, rotating 67,000 miles an hour. Y'all hear me? Yeah, so okay, my bad. So we see this swing right here. It's not even moving, but yet the earth is moving at three different speeds, and they are at 1,000 miles an hour, 67,000 miles an hour, and 483,000 miles an hour with three different movements. But yet this swing ain't even moving. He also talked about the Foucault's pit. I mean, he also talked about the Coriolis effect. Here's an experiment you can do at the house with a sink. Here's here's what we see of the Foucault's pendulum rotating, I mean, not the Foucault's pendulum, the sink draining from counterclockwise in one sink. And here's another one right here, draining counterclockwise. Two sinks. I guess both of the sinks is in both equators. I mean, on different parts of the equators. He must have a real big old sink. Here's the part of the sea right, I mean, of a river right here, where you can see the ocean, I mean, part of the river draining from clockwise. And you can see both of these parts, one draining clockwise and another counterclockwise. And we can see the whole video. I could send a whole video to y'all. I guess both of those parts are the different parts of the equator, I guess. I guess one part is the northern hemisphere and the other part is the southern hemisphere. Let's continue. Now, PhDTony showed this. As you could clearly see on the curvature, objects and people behave as they are off balance and tilted forward, but yet he is showing different type of things over or obstructions over curvature that is not off balance or not tilted. So he have to explain how untilted object to stand level on a curved ball, which is crazy. We also got laser tests. Here's a laser test right here that was done, and this laser test was done 10 miles from Owens Beach Point, Defiance Park, all the way to Saltwater Park at 10 miles, and you can see the laser is actually moving straight. We about to show you. Here's the laser detect right here, 10 miles. We're not even supposed to see that. This person is 10 feet off the ground. I mean, not 10 feet, 6 feet off the ground. And we seeing this laser right here, but yet that curvature is supposed to be blocking that laser, but they're going to say that the laser is bended. That's what they're going to say. They got to prove that. Look at this right here. The curvature calculation of eye height of 7 feet of 10-mile distance, I mean, at a target distance, we would be seeing we are missing 33 feet worth of curvature. Look at this, and here it is right here. As we could clearly see, here's the laser right here. We see it 10 miles away, like it ain't nothing. Here's the laser being activated and shoot it across the lake, 10 miles away from each other. Here's these different types of laser tests that we done and that we did repeated experiments on that debunks Eratosthenes' work of how much curvature we should be seeing at certain miles because he used stadiums. So let's continue. If we said 8.5 feet and 10 feet mile distance, then we are missing 30. Where's the other 30 feet of curvature? Look at this one right here. Yeah, look at this one right here. If we 10 feet and the target is 10.3 miles, where's the 27.55 mile curvature is? But we could clearly see the laser 10 miles away from different feet. We put the phone down into the ocean, if we still saw the laser 10 miles away, and this the laser light right here. We also got spirit level tests where we can fly planes for actually more than 20 minutes and the spirit level bubble never shift to the side or shift completely to the side, which we should actually be seeing almost every minute because of the account for the curvature. So look at this. This is 6 minutes and 38 seconds. The bubble still ain't moved all the way to the side from no angle. Here's at 8 minutes and 59 seconds. The bubble still ain't moved to the side. We should have been dipped. That thing should have been moved all the way to the side. The bubble on the spirit level test should have been moved all the way to the side. 20 minutes later, it's still at the middle of the spirit level. In conclusion, at 321 cruise speed, 515 miles per hour, 23.75 minutes, 515 miles per hour is roughly 203.85 miles along the Earth's surface. The pilot should have dipped the nose to compensate for over 5 miles of curvature. But nope, that's my conclusion.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for that opening. We are going to jump into the open dialogue. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Folks, if you have been living in a cave on Mars with your fingers in your ears and you didn't know, DebateCon 5 is going to be in
Your
Newark.
music, James.
Come again?
Hey, I'm gonna log on into my phone, if that's all right with
Sorry
y'all.
about that. I had myself muted on Zoom, but I am here and want to let you know, folks, if it's your first time here, want to let you know this conference in Newark, New Jersey is going to be huge. The link for tickets is in the description box. Check it out right now. It's 2 days of debates live and in person from Newark, New Jersey. You don't want to miss it. If you are in the Newark, New Jersey area, check out that link below. Gentlemen, thank you very much. The floor is all yours for open dialogue.
Hey, I'm gonna log on into my phone, if that's okay with y'all.
You got it.
All right. Hey, I wanted to ask you guys a question. Tony and Phil, are you guys Australians?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So you guys are upside down right now?
No, because gravity acts to up is the direction of maximum increase in gravitational potential. Down is towards the center of the Earth. I've got a presentation on the evidence we have for gravity and the instruments that we use to measure it and the industrial applications that we use it for. Would you like to see that evidence, or would you just like to ask questions?
Well, there was something that I wanted to ask you about, gravimeters.
Yes.
So gravimeters negate the effects of electromagnetics and electrostatics, and then the rest is attributed to gravity, alleged gravity?
Yes. In general, you'll find that gravimeters are inside metal containers that act to reduce any electrostatic effects. There are many different styles of gravimeter that use different types of observations. For instance, the cold atom gravimeters, they use clouds of atoms. And they measure the change in the wave function of the atoms. Now, the atoms are neutrally charged, so they are unaffected by electric fields or magnetic fields. So
how is that though? Like, what I wanted to really ask you, like, mainly about that was like, what is the reason to negate the effects of electromagnetism and electrostatics? And then have that last part, hold on, just have that last part attributed to gravity. To me, I think like if they were really going to establish whatever they were sensing, why would they negate such powerful forces? Or not include it?
You want to isolate physical phenomena from one another. You want to minimize confounding variables in your experiment. So I've got a presentation on this actually. Just a moment.
Well, yeah, but my question is like, why exclude such powerful forces and then attribute the rest to alleged gravity? That's my, because honestly, I don't believe gravity. You know?
Okay, well, that I mean, you're entitled to not believe stuff, but why should people listen to you? We use gravity.
I'm asking questions like, why exclude electromagnetics and electrostatics If
Because we want to isolate, so you have to let me answer this question.
Okay.
Okay. We know we can demonstrate that the mass outside of the gravimeter affects the reading inside the gravimeter. We can demonstrate that to be true. If we move a mass near the gravimeter, we can sorry, I just need to find this, but we can put a mass near a gravimeter and we can work out that it is changing the acceleration. So now we know that mass is having an effect on what's happening in the gravimeter. So in order to isolate that effect, we want to minimize the other forces that are acting, because if we say, look, this is all due to gravity, but we haven't removed the electrostatic and the electrodynamic forces, then we've introduced an error into our observations. And these are very precise observations that a lot of money rests on. Mining companies use gravimetric mineral exploration to find deposits of oil, gas, any minerals. There's a good chance that the oil in your car is a product of gravimetric surveying. There's a good chance that the metals in your computer are a result of gravimetric surveying. So the claim, and can I just share for a moment? Can I just share screen for just 1 second?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the example that I was talking about. Here you've got a kid who has been, there's a pit in the floor, there's a superconducting gravimeter in the pit, and they sat a 45 kilogram kid on the pit, and you can see on the right there, he's had an effect on the gravity measured by the gravimeter. His mass is reducing the downward acceleration experienced by the proof mass by 2.5 nanometers per second squared. So we can show that just having a mass there, just having that kid's mass on top, is influencing what's happening in the instrument. So we want to isolate that and control for and measure it, and that's why we exclude all of these other forces to the best of our ability.
So the kid has weight.
Yes, the kid has mass.
Okay. I think as the globe model gets reworked under this kind of new paradigm or whatever, I think it would be beneficial for you guys to just not even talk about gravity and maybe introduce electrostatics or electromagnetics as a better alternative for how
Except it isn't a better.
No, listen what I'm saying. Like a balloon, if you get a balloon and you generate the static electricity, things will stick. So just that's what I would say. And we disagree about this, but I would just say, like, just putting it out there, maybe Globers need to just get rid of the idea of gravity because it failed and just be like, okay, electromagnetics, electrostatics, it's kind of a better reason for something sticking to a ball.
Can I respond?
Of course. It's just not what I believe, but it's just the model will work better for you guys by not excluding these much powerful forces. I don't even know how much more powerful electromagnetics is to alleged gravity, but why exclude it? I think you guys would be better just putting it in your model and getting rid of the past stuff that didn't work.
Okay.
Can I help him out here, please, Tony?
Well, yeah, sure. Off you go.
All right. So you think about this. The gravimeter was designed especially to discount any possibility of electrical interference or electrostatic interference. It was actually designed to do that. It was designed to accelerate based on the knowledge that when you bring a mass that's close to it, when you change the mass that's around it, the acceleration will change. So gravity, so Earth has a gravitational field. This is how we know that it has a gravitational field, because we can measure the gravitational field using acceleration. So acceleration is the tool that we use to measure the strength of the gravitational field. Now, the instrument was designed especially to do that, and then it does it. It's not by magic that we find these minerals underground. The instrument was not built with electrostatics in mind. It was built with gravity in mind, and there you go, it finds the minerals. Do you think that it could be magic, that the minerals are found deep underground?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, of course. Do you think it's magic?
No, I think it's just like PhDTony said. They're just getting rid of these other factors, and they're trying to isolate anything, and weight seems to be one of them. Perhaps you guys are locking on to something else like minerals underground by negating these other forces and just finding a thing. Not so much alleged gravity, but like how there was the kid or whatever on a weight. It's like, yeah, it's going to feel that. Or if, say, you were pointing these things into the ground, like, oh, there's something here based on how these sensor readings are changing. But like I said before, I think you guys would be better off just getting rid of gravity and redoing the whole
doing. It doesn't matter what you think we'll be better off doing.
Well, why exclude data? Why exclude that?
Let me finish.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Well, I'd make 2 points. One, neutrons, beams of neutrons fall under the effect of gravity. Beams of neutrons are not affected by magnetic fields or electrical fields. So you saying, Matthew, your assertion that gravity fails, no. It is the electrostatic explanation for fails because neutrons and neutrally charged objects fall under gravity. Therefore, it can't be electrostatic. It can't be electromagnetic. Your hypothesis is falsified by simple observations. And if it were electromagnetic, we could fly planes by simply putting a charge on them. We could get them to levitate by putting a charge on them, and that isn't true.
That's a good
idea. No, it won't work. That because gravity, you're assuming that your model is correct and then saying that'd be a great idea. We don't do that because it doesn't work, because your model is wrong. So you seem not to be responding to the fact that we have observational data that has precluded your hypothesis. And it's interesting to me, I presented like 5 minutes worth of direct observations of Earth rotation, and you just instantly said Earth is stationary. Why were my 5 minutes of evidence not persuasive in any way? Why did they have no effect on you?
Okay, why they had no effect?
I was going to answer, but if you want to answer, Matthew?
No, go for it, Tacori. I want to hear from you, man.
Okay. The reason is because it really wasn't observed, because we know that anytime objects move at a certain speed, they're going to create that wind speed also. And that wind speed would have to be... Huh?
No, they're not. That's a complete misunderstanding. The atmosphere has the same the atmosphere has the same angular momentum as the planetary disk from which Earth formed. So the atmosphere rotates in an approximately synchronized fashion with the rotating planet. There should be no wind speed.
So are you saying objects with motions don't create wind?
I'm saying that objects that are moving relative to the atmosphere will create wind, but the atmosphere is not moving relative to the surface, or at least not moving significantly apart from local weather patterns. I want you to think about this. What you are saying is that every scientist of the past 2,000 years has looked outside, seen that there's no 1,000-mile-an-hour wind, and simply overlooked it. No, you are wrong in suggesting that this is a consequence of the globe model. It isn't a consequence of the globe model. And so suggesting that we don't observe it, therefore the globe model is false, is not a correct syllogism. This is not a consequence of the globe model. Your understanding of the physics involved is incorrect.
Yeah, here's the thing. Actually, because if we turn on a fan, that fan gonna produce a lot of wind. As we turn the fan, as the fan move faster, that's just what it is. Just what it's gonna do. If I turn on one of my fans right now, it's gonna blow my papers off my desk. So, how much wind would the Earth produce rotating that fast with a mass that it has? How much wind speed? How much wind force? Force the wind, pretty much.
The wind moves
zero,
together with the Earth.
So you're saying
with the Earth.
You saying zero, right?
Yes.
No wind.
Yeah, they're all together. They move together.
Okay. So
the atmosphere and the Earth move together.
What causes planes to be able to get to their location with a ground spinning 3 times faster than it, around 200 times in revolution speed, and over 3,000 to 4,000 times the speed it's moving as it goes out of throughout the universe? What's keeping that plane from not being left by that Earth? Because when a plane is off the ground, it's no longer relative to the Earth motion.
So
it got its own motion.
So when the plane is in contact with the ground, it has the momentum of Earth. So it has the same momentum as Earth. It has the same velocity of Earth. The fact that it is stationary on the ground and not moving means that it is moving at exactly the same speed as Earth.
No, I'm talking about as it get off the ground.
And when it gets off the ground, it maintains that momentum. There is no physical mechanism that takes that momentum away.
So it sounds like you saying that because of the Earth's motion, it'll give the plane that motion too to keep up with the Earth, right? So you're pretty much saying that it's pretty much like tossing the plane pretty much to get to its location. That's not facts, bro. That's not facts.
That's not what I said, and misrepresenting what I said.
Okay, well, if that's not what you said.
So I'm actually speaking, and you are just misrepresenting what I said, and then saying, well, you're wrong. Therefore the Earth is flat. I didn't say that it's just throwing. What I said was that at rest relative to the Earth, it has the same velocity. It has the same angular velocity, and it has the same linear velocity as the Earth that it is resting on. Once it leaves the ground, it still has that momentum, that angular momentum and that linear momentum that the Earth has. But it can modify its momentum using engines, so it can direct itself towards its destination. Does that make anything clearer?
So how fast would the plane be moving in order to get to its location on an Earth that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, 67,000 miles of revolutionary speed, and 483,000 miles throughout space? How fast would the plane be moving to go to one location?
The plane has all of the velocity that Earth has when it's sitting on the tarmac. You have that velocity. You have that angular velocity. So if the Earth is moving at that speed, the plane is already moving with speed enough to keep up with the Earth as it rotates and with the Earth as it moves through space. It already has that momentum.
So are you saying that it's moving at 551,000 miles per hour with the Earth throughout space with the spin and the revolution added too?
Yes.
So hold on, wait a minute. Planes are really moving at 551,000 miles per hour according to you.
Motion is relative. It depends on where the observer is. If you're an observer on Earth, then you are moving at the same speed as the Earth is. So the plane probably has a ground speed, if you're talking of a large commercial plane, probably has a ground speed of about 900 kilometers an hour or 250 meters a second. But if you're an observer who is somehow magically stationary near the cosmic well, near the galactic center, or in some invariable position, if you're magically in that frame of reference and you can magically see the plane, yes, the plane is going to appear to move with all of the velocities and all of the motions that the Earth has.
So let me get something straight. So you're telling me if I go up to a plane that's stationed right now and I use some type of speed reader to read that plane's motion, are you telling me that plane ain't gonna be at 0 miles per hour? Because that's what the meter will read. It would be 0 miles per hour.
No,
so what,
that's not what
would
I'm
it
saying.
read?
It would.
No, I'm asking you.
I am saying it would read 0 miles an hour. Your question was, are you saying it wouldn't read 0 miles an hour? No, that is not what I'm saying. Again, that is an observer on Earth. It was an observer on Earth standing next to the plane.
We're on Earth, dude. We're on Earth. That's the point.
But
it's like, can I say this really quick? When it comes to what I think Corey's trying to say here is that these speeds that the Earth is allegedly rotating, we're not seeing it. I think we can all agree that
I literally just presented
PhDTony, we're not seeing clouds move 1,000 miles an hour. A plane flying south on one longitude line. The Earth does not move beneath it. That's what the point is in this debate. That everything about the Earth rotation, it's all like a theory. It's not.
Here.
It's irrelevant.
I do want to give a chance because
oh, my bad. Sorry about that.
Well, I know that it sounded like Tony was saying that he had said that he did give evidence for the clouds moving at that rate, if I understood right. Tony, did you want to mention that just because that way Tony can say, hey, here's what I did mention on that. It wasn't the case that I didn't give any evidence for it, and then we can engage directly with that topic.
They're not 1,000 miles an hour. I'm sorry to
interrupt you, Tony. Matthew.
Matthew. Miles an hour.
Is Matthew? But does that sound? Guys, just relax for a second, please. It sounds like Tony had something in mind where I think he was, as he understood it, you were saying that there's no evidence given for the clouds moving at their rate, and I think Tony's saying like I just gave it very recently. I want to be able to give him a chance to present it, and then you can directly engage with it.
Well, no, that isn't. So again, the idea that the clouds should be moving at 1,000 miles an hour relative to the ground is a misrepresentation on multiple levels. One, rotation is not measured in miles per hour. Miles per hour is a linear velocity. The rotation is measured in radians per second. And the number of radians per second that Earth is moving in is 2 pi divided by 86,400. So it's a very small number. That's an incredibly small number. That's 2 pi, a complete rotation in 86,400 seconds, which is 1 day. So having dealt with the clouds, the fact that you don't see the clouds moving at 1,000 miles an hour that's not what a rotating globe would predict anyway. So the fact that you don't see it isn't germane to the conversation. The evidence I presented was from gyroscopes of various different designs and various different physical principles that all detect the same rate of rotation.
But you just contradicted yourself, Tony. You just contradicted yourself.
One sec.
You said we're on the Earth.
1 sec. I do want to
forget.
Pardon my
interruption. I would like to turn, please.
Yes, go ahead. Jump in.
Okay, thank you. All right, I just want to explain this. So those people who are listening to this conversation from out there, the fence sitters, as I call them, if something's on the ground, as Tony said, they will have the momentum of the Earth as the Earth is spinning. Those things that are actually on the ground, like an airplane, like a helicopter, will also be spinning at the same rate, obviously. Now, as they come off the ground, no force acts on them. No force acts on them that makes them change what they were doing already. They were already spinning, just like if you were in the back of a truck and you jumped up or you threw a ball up. If you were in a train, the ball will come straight back to to your hand, even though that ball is moving 160 miles per hour in that train.
Actually, it wouldn't, because you can actually tell it wouldn't, because the way the direction of the smoke that's moving on the train, And if the smoke is moving on the train towards the north, it's gonna do the air is they're gonna produce air that blows to the opposite direction. That's why you see smoke on that train moving to the
Bullet
opposite
trains
direction.
don't have smoke.
So
Bullet
no, I'm talking.
trains.
Hey,
No,
yeah,
I'm talking
but
about trains. Period. I'm talking
I'm
about
talking
the
about a
trains
bullet
that.
train.
No, listen. I'm
Can
talking
you just
about.
let me finish?
Oh, I thought
Can
you
you
was
just let me
finished. My
finish?
bad.
Let me finish
My bad.
I
everything
thought he
I'm going
was
to
finished
say.
too.
Then you can ask me questions. Okay. All right. Let me finish what I'm going to say. Then you can ask me questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm actually talking to other people. So let me finish what I'm saying to them. All right. Okay. So Tacori, I'm going to be talking to other people. All right.
All right.
Okay, so if you jump up and down in a truck, or if you jump up and down in a train, or you throw a ball in a train, there's no smoke in the train. Okay, we're talking about a train that can do 160 miles per hour. We're talking about a very fast train.
Got
So
it.
you throw that ball will come back to your hand. Have a go at it.
Pressurized cabin. It's called a pressurized cabin. The same
Okay.
reason why if you're in a plane,
I
you
Let
just
me
throw
want to
finish.
give
something up, it'll come
because
back into your
because
hand.
Phil
Can you
because Phil
please
was so
just let me
patient. I do
finish?
want to give Phil a chance to finish because he's been
I've
waiting.
been very quiet up till now. Just let me finish. So if you throw the ball up and down, the ball will come back to your hand. So now, this is what's meant. Even though that ball is actually moving with the train at 160 miles per hour. This is what we mean by conservation of momentum. Okay? Now, when you're in a helicopter, the helicopter is on the ground. It's also traveling at the same speed that the Earth is moving. As the helicopter picks up, there's no lateral force that causes that helicopter to change that velocity that it already had as it gets higher and higher. Unless the engines start moving that helicopter one way or another, right? That helicopter will just stay in line with the Earth. A geostationary satellite, for instance, that's a satellite that stays that is in one spot all the time. For instance, let's look at the Hammond 8. That's almost directly over Australia. Okay, so that's looking at Australia. That's always looking at Australia. That's because it's moving at the same speed that the Earth is moving. The Earth takes one day to go around. The satellite also does the same thing from its orbital position. Okay, so this is what we mean by conservation. Now, I stop thinking about ways that you can try and make your agenda work. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh,
all right? Listen to what I'm trying to tell you and take
sir, I
something from
disagree
the
with you. Oh,
and
sir, I
take something
disagree with
from
you
the
so
lesson.
much. I
Right?
think the
Take
One
opposite
sec.
is true.
Pardon my
People should
interruption. Just
think.
to be sure. Hold on one sec. I just want to any last concluding words from Phil before we jump back over to Matthew. I want to give you a chance as well, but just because Phil had been so patient, is I do want to give him just the last points that he might have had. Any last thoughts, Phil, before we do pass it back to the other
Okay.
side?
Yes. All right. So seeing that the airplane or whatever aircraft already has the momentum of the Earth, when it moves itself laterally, that momentum of the Earth didn't suddenly go away. Okay. So it maintains that momentum of the Earth. Now, I know that's a struggle for you. I understand it's a struggle for you. And I'm happy to go over that over and over again. Or there's thousands of videos that you can watch that will explain that to you in detail. Okay? It's not a laughing matter. It's actually it's actually quite sad that this principle is not understood. Because if it did, that would wipe away a lot of your concerns about your thinking that the Earth is flat, because that would certainly stop that thinking from going on. Okay, so I'll turn it over to whatever question else you have. All right, that's enough of this topic, I would think.
Well, I mean, if you're done with the topic, I mean, we're having a debate, so you don't have to stay in the debate if you don't want to talk about it.
I think he means
But how?
you have the
it's
last
getting
word on it,
nowhere.
Matthew.
It's getting nowhere because
Okay,
you don't understand. You
Okay, that's an
obviously
assumption.
don't
Sir,
understand
that's
what's
an
happening.
assumption. That's
What's
an
the
assumption.
point?
Let me
I think
may I
I've
have a
already
chance?
explained it
Let me
before
explain something.
before
Okay,
I do want to
Phil.
just be sure, because I know that we have limited time and we do want to cover other topics. So what we can do, Matthew, is I think Phil is just saying that he's ready to cover other topics that you guys have maybe brought up in your openings. So if you want to have a quick last word on that, Matthew,
Just a quick
you
last word.
can,
Okay,
but then we'll jump into a new topic, which is fair because we've got plenty to cover.
perfect. Okay, I understand, James. Okay, just to put a quick bow on it, think about someone inside a train going fast, right? Say the train's max speed, right? There's someone inside a train trying to flip a coin, let's say, right? Let's think of it like this. Someone trying to flip a coin inside the train. That coin's going to go up and it's going to come down in their hand. But if you have someone, let's say, sitting on top of a train going max speed, what's going to happen to that coin when the person tries to flip it? Hey, what's going to happen to the person sitting on top of the train? I think that's the problem a lot of Globers have when considering this issue is that, yeah, they say, look it, you don't go to the back of a train, but that's how I would put a bow on it. It's like you have to not just think you're inside a train. Imagine what would happen to the person, right, sitting on top of a train trying to flip a coin.
Yeah, the converse position is that's the problem flat earthers have, because there is no wind relative to Earth's surface. The atmosphere rotates with the globe, so there is no wind. Except that I showed instrumental measurements of Earth rotation. I showed more than half a dozen. I showed physical examples of Coriolis force in effect.
Then why is the Earth not moving? If you can show all of that.
So I just did. Were you asleep during my presentation?
No, I was watching and enjoyed it. I enjoyed
it. But I showed multiple instruments using different physical mechanisms, all recording consistent results for Earth rotation. And again, I come back to the question, you're just saying Earth doesn't move, but when we use these instruments, we can detect rotation. Why do you persist in saying we don't detect Earth motion when I've shown you studies in which we do?
I think people could make all kinds of studies to say anything they want. They can make studies to say people are some type of ape or whatever. I don't believe that either. But the point is, in reality, yeah, the Earth is not moving. People could say what they want, come up with theories and formulas and specialized expensive devices that will corroborate what you're saying.
You're entitled to believe that, Matthew, but the rest of it, we're talking to those people on the fence, sitting on the fence. Listen to what PhDTony has said.
I have another question for you. I showed that in the northern hemisphere, winds deflect to the right, and in the southern hemisphere, winds deflect to the left, as viewed from the along the line of their motion.
Okay.
What is the explanation for that? We explain it using Coriolis. Why, if the Earth is flat and stationary, why does the air not flow directly from the high pressure system straight to the low pressure system, as physics demands that it should?
What I understand is there's many different jet streams going in different directions at different speeds. And you know what, PhDTony? The fact that winds can go in different directions at different speeds proves the Earth is not rotating. It's the wind that's moving.
That is logically null. What you just said, it isn't a demonstration of anything. It isn't a syllogism.
Tony,
it's not a fact, dude.
It's fact.
Okay, what is a fact? A fact is something that the subject matter experts agree is true. You have just stated something that all of the subject matter experts. I'm still speaking.
Let's give Tony a chance to finish.
I'm still speaking, Matthew. The subject matter experts say that you're wrong. So what you are asserting is not a fact. It's something you have asserted.
Tony, can I speak to you for a minute?
Yep.
Okay, so basically we have explained it. You have more than adequately provided evidence that the Earth is moving. You've more than and you've explained it extremely well how the conservation of momentum works, as have I. Now it's apparent that Matthew is not going to get it, so that's okay. It may not be his fault. It may not
I
be his.
understand
So
it.
let's
I
move on
reject
to
it, Professor
let's move
Bill.
on to
I
something
reject
else.
it. I understand it. And I
Of
reject
course
it.
you reject
Okay?
it. Of course you do.
Okay, thank you. That's
That's
what I
not
We'll
wanted to
surprising.
we'll
make.
just we
Of
just
course
to
you
be
do.
sure. Okay,
Let's
I
move
think
on
we're
to
on this.
something else now.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Tacori, this is a great opportunity because I know you have to leave soon. So I do want to make sure that before you do have to leave, any new topic that you wanted to cover before you did have to take off, Tacori. Tacori is here, folks. He's just invisible. So, Tacori, the floor is yours if you had anything. You might be, let me check if you're muted.
He's in the chat saying he has to go to work.
Okay, Tacori, no
Okay.
problem.
Nice.
We appreciate that you made it tonight, Tacori.
Thanks
We
for
hope you have a
coming,
good rest of your
Tacori.
night.
And my apologies to Corey. I did a lot of speaking, and you didn't really get a chance to talk. So my apologies for that.
Yeah,
hear me?
shout out to Corey. Sorry.
Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to say I got to get ready and go to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, have a great night, Corey.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you for
Yeah,
being
see
here.
it. See you, Tacori. You're a great partner, man. We'll have to debate again sometime.
Yeah. All right, then. Y'all appreciate the time.
Thank you for coming
Take
on
care.
tonight, Tacori. Have a good night. I'm going to have to adjust the screen here, folks. So just give me a moment. Matthew, if you have any new topics in place of Tacori, if you were to read his mind and guess what topic he might want to have covered, do you have any thoughts in terms of a new topic we haven't covered yet?
I think we're covering some pretty good ground. I think to get into some new territory, I'm not sure which way to toss it. We could talk about anything that these guys want, really. I could love to answer questions that they may have about how the
I'd like
flat
to.
Earth reality may work versus the globe imaginary reality.
Sure.
I'd love
I
to
would
share.
like to do that.
Okay, so what kind of questions do you guys have?
Okay, so you heard in my presentation, Matthew, where I said it's the sun tracks the Tropic of Capricorn.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I think a better understanding would be to track the subsolar point from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. And
I'm talking about in December. In December,
Yeah,
Matthew, do you agree that the sun tracks the Tropic of Capricorn on especially on December the 21st?
The subsolar point, yes.
Okay, good. So right, and you agree that the Tropic of Capricorn is 23.4 degrees south.
Yes, I think that could be accurate.
Okay, excellent. All right, that's excellent. Now, I live south of the Tropic of Capricorn.
Okay.
You live north of the Tropic of Capricorn in America. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, so for me to look at the sun, I need to face north. If I face south, the sun's going to be behind my head.
According to the flat Earth
Is that?
model.
Do you understand that? Yes.
Well, what's happening with the lights? I actually covered
No,
this
just
in
say if
my
you agree
most
with me.
recent-
We're going.
No, I hear what
Matthew,
you're
we
saying.
need to
I
go
know
one
what you're
step at a
saying.
time.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I
Then
covered
what's
this
wrong
in
with
my
what I
book.
said?
No, I
What's
covered
wrong
this
with what
in
I
my
said?
book about how south of the equator, there appears to be a great perspective distortion that takes place in the sky. Now, instead of just going directly to the south, I look at the equator first, where an observer at the equator can simultaneously witness two different star rotations in the sky at the same time.
We're talking about the sun, Matthew.
Yes,
Matthew, can we just stay with the topic, the sun?
Don't
Forget
get
the stars.
ahead
We'll
of
come
it.
to that.
We're getting to that. The next step is to look at the analemma. research the analemma, the sun's
Matthew.
figure 8 path in the sky. Okay.
Matthew, that wasn't
Now,
my question. My
I
question
understand.
was,
Matthew,
It's
just to
about
bring
the
it
sun.
to the sun.
Yes, like
it's just the
what's
sun,
happening
Matthew.
with
That's
the
all.
sun. The sun is a light in the sky. Now, if you listen to what I'm saying, there is a perspective distortion that takes place. That is why there is an extra star rotation south of the equator. But you have to understand, all of the lights do this. Our own observational field, like how we observe reality, is like a dome. The lights
Matthew, are you just
rotating
capable of just answering specific questions as I ask them? Okay.
Okay, what we're talking
All right.
about.
So I
if you
don't
face
want you
north-
to ramble on. Just answer the specific questions that I ask them.
Okay.
The sun is going around. The sun is to my north. I would need to face north to see it. Do you agree with that or not?
No, because like I said, there's perspective that
How could it, if
place.
it's going north of me, if the only way that the sun is going around the Tropic of Capricorn north of me, because I'm south of the Tropic of Capricorn,
I just
I
told
have to turn around and look north to see it.
Yes, you have to study like what I'm saying. The analemma, anti-crepuscular rays, and dual star rotation at the equator. Once you see how these things together, our perspective will warp the path of the lights above us. Then you'll understand. These things all work. It's in my most recent book. It's easy to read.
It doesn't matter about
Except
your book.
that these observations, sorry for interrupting, Phil, but these observations, the diverging star paths at the equator,
Yeah.
the analemma, these are all explained if Earth is a rotating spheroid, right?
No,
they
I'm sorry, it does
are
not.
perfectly. Why not?
The reason it does not is because we observe there is no axial tilt.
The fact that, so can you define the axial tilt for me?
If we look at the sky, we could see that Polaris stays in its spot. If we track the subsolar point, we see that the sun moves from the Tropic of Cancer in my summertime to the Tropic of Capricorn in my wintertime.
Yes,
That's
that
proof
that
there
would
is
be
no
that
axial
would
tilt.
that would be that would be the definition of axial tilt
No,
relative
PhDTony.
relative. Can you let me finish? That
Yeah,
would be the defining observation that gives us Earth's axial tilt relative to our orbit around the sun, right?
But it's disproven though by Polaris. I went over this with Craig. We talked
it
about
isn't.
this for 4 hours. He used his best computer programs. He could not demonstrate how Polaris stays in its spot if the Earth is going around it and tilting, or the Earth is going around the sun and tilting. We went over that a lot. And
your failure to understand an explanation does not constitute a debunk.
That's an assumption. You're assuming I don't know. You're assuming that.
You're assuming that you have understood the explanation. Polaris is very distant, so that Earth's motion around the sun has very little effect on its apparent position in the sky.
It's another irrelevant thing, right?
Earth's pole. I'm still speaking.
Yeah,
and Earth's pole of rotation. Earth's pole of rotation is aimed at approximately Polaris. But are you suggesting that stars don't move, that they don't exhibit proper motion? Because that's false.
No. I agree with you. The stars move. The Earth does not. The Earth does not. So
how do you explain precession?
The precession of how the constellations work? I talk
how
about
do you
this in my
precession
book
of the
also.
zodiac?
I covered this in my book. The methodology is it's 2 things. Every day, track Polaris in its spot and measure the approximately 1 degree regression of the celestial disk every night. And the beautiful way God made that system is that after 1 year, the precession of zodiac, just like you were mentioned, it goes back to its original spot.
Yeah, that's a demonstration. So what's actually happening here? Is Earth completes 1 rotation relative to the star field, every 23 hours and 56 minutes.
No.
Yes.
No, you'd have to establish first that the Earth is moving.
You're just turning
You
this
can't
into
establish
nonsense.
approximately anyway.
Yeah, you can't establish the Earth is moving.
Yes, we can. And we
No,
can
you
establish,
can't.
yes, we can. We
No,
can
you can't.
establish
Can,
this.
can I finish what I was saying before?
Yes, sorry.
Please do
Thank you.
so.
All right, thank you. Okay, now, so I'm going to pursue. I'm going to keep on with this, because if I am standing south of the Tropic of Capricorn, I must face north to see it. I could never see it if I'm facing south. Now, if you don't believe me, I can share my screen, and I'd like to show you another prominent flat earther saying exactly what I just said.
Who
Do
cares
you mind
if
if I
they say
share
they're
my
not here?
you
They're
mind
not
if I
here.
share my screen, please? You might enjoy this. Okay, let's let me
Who
set
cares what
it.
other people say?
Take me a
No?
second to set it up. Okay.
And I want to let you know, folks, if you haven't hit like, we do appreciate your support. You can also find our guests linked in the description box. The guests are the lifeblood of the channel. And I got to tell you, we do appreciate them. They have been super flexible tonight. We just appreciate them. So I do want to encourage you folks to check out their links in the description box right now. What are you waiting for? Even if you disagree, there's so much value in hearing from the other side rather than hearing what someone says the other side says.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to go, and then I'll press the play button as soon as it's shared. Okay.
You bet. I'm ready for you.
Thank you. Please pay attention to this, okay, Matthew?
Oh, it's
all right.
just to be
Oh, I
sure.
promise.
I know you like the sound of your own voice. I'm sorry I have to say that, but you know, all right.
Oh, look at
But,
Will Duffy. He's a liar.
All right.
I
So
exposed
please.
him already. He got exposed.
Okay. So let's just say that you'll just pay attention to what's going on over here.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, but we're not off to a good start. I don't trust that guy.
It's nothing to do with him. There is. Okay. Is it helpful? Yeah, go on. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I didn't choose that. Okay. Yeah, no.
Hopefully.
Oh, no, this is just.
This would constitute fair use.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Look, if you're worried about it, I won't share it. But I'm not sure where you said that. I'm looking for this box that you said that where it says share. That it's just got.
Just paraphrase it. Like instead of playing the video, just say what.
All right.
Say what they're talking about.
All right. Okay. All right. I will do that. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll stop sharing and then I'll do that. So the video that I was about to play for you was do you know Dave from SSUM? What's his
Sovereign Soul.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him. He's cool.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you like him, because then you trust what he says too, don't you?
I don't trust what anybody says. I just want to
okay.
think for myself.
But he's
cool though.
Of course you don't. And yes, he's so good. I'm glad you think he's cool. All right. So what he said was that he said exactly this: if the Earth was flat, then objects would come in from the north, would come in from the northeast, go across your vision, and then go away in the northwest. He said, if that happens, Earth cannot be a globe. I 100% agree with that.
Well, you could debate him
now
if you
listen,
want.
just finish.
He's not
and
here.
Then he went on to say this: if it comes in from south of east, and then disappears south of west, he said this: it must be a globe. That's what
I'm
his
not
words
sure what you're talking
exactly.
about. What are you talking about? Like the sun movements or something? What are you talking about?
It's not that hard.
And may I bring up
Go ahead,
a
Tony.
slide?
Yeah, it's like, who cares what other people say? I'm here right now debating. Talk to me.
Okay, so here we've got a diagram of sunrise on the day of the equinox. Okay, so we know that at sunrise the sun is above.
Okay.
The sun is above the horizon for 12 hours. So we know that it rises 6 hours before noon and it sets 6 hours after. So we know that the sun moves at 15 degrees an hour. So we know where the sun is. It's 90 degrees away from the observer on the ground. And so we can put it on a map. We have observers that are directly under the sun who can confirm that the sun is directly overhead. Indonesia has a large population, more than 100 million people. So we know that there are people there. At the same time, an observer in South Africa does not see the sun rise in the northwest. They see, this map tells us that the sun should appear to be north of east, but instead it's everybody on the equinox sees the sun rise directly east.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
And I did a demonstration how it is possible on a flat plane to have an observer north and south on one longitude line be able to have a sunrise at 90 degrees angle. It's on my YouTube page. I know people were getting upset thinking about it, and I'm like, let me just demonstrate it.
Okay.
And I used a glass dome magnifier. I used a flashlight at a distance representing the sun, right? And I moved the glass dome magnifier up and down, and the light stays. Listen, the light stayed in the same spot as I moved the glass dome magnifier up and down. So it proves that it's possible.
So your argument now is that the firmament is full of glass.
No,
and
no.
Well, that's what you just did. You used a glass dome that is full of glass.
No,
right?
I didn't
say that. That doesn't occur.
Tony,
Look,
please,
I'm still
just to be sure, gentlemen, just to be sure that we can
that.
hear both of you. I want to maybe jump in at 1 minute intervals, so maybe 60 seconds for one person and then 60 seconds for the other.
All right.
So, your demonstration relied on the fact that your dome was full of glass and that your light was outside the firmament, whereas the sun is inside the firmament, according to your model, not outside of it, and the firmament is not full of glass. So whatever demonstration you did in your experiment bears no relationship to reality as we observe it.
Okay, the reason it does is that I use glass dome magnifiers to represent our own personal dome of perspective, our own unique observational field. And yeah, the light, it shows that wherever the observer is on this longitude line, as long as it's not too far north or too far south, the observers would see it at that angle. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but it's there. The proof is there.
Everybody has a personal dome of perception that is made of glass.
It's not made of glass. It's just
what is it made of?
It's how we perceive reality.
We perceive reality as though the light is passing through a dome of glass.
No, that's incorrect. I think I might be explaining it incorrectly. You know how we observe, how the eye observes? Think about how the eye observes. Think about if you look in any direction, there is an extent to how far you could see in every direction.
No, there isn't.
That extent is your personal dome of observation.
That's not true. That's literally untrue. I can see stars.
I can see stars
that are billions of light years away.
That's an assumption.
Yes, and your claim that it is untrue is similarly an assertion. You have no evidence backing up your
assuming. Tony, I said you're assuming the stars are
you are assuming that they aren't. And you are assuming that we have a dome
No,
of
I
perception.
made no
You have not
assumptions. I'm just
demonstrated it.
observing them. I'm observing.
No, that's not observing. That is interpreting the observations in a particular way. That is
I don't
that
have
is
to
you.
guess. I don't have to
That
guess.
is you. I'm still talking. That is you simply asserting your belief to substantiate your position. It's not a logically derived conclusion from observational evidence. If it were, you would be able to give me the observational evidence, and you have failed to do so.
I don't think so. I think actually the observational evidence is on my side for this, because it's actually how the celestial navigation works. Like we could see how our own celestial sphere works, whether you're in the north at the equator or the south. You can't deny that. There's absolutely no way to deny. I mean, you can if you want. Deny it if you want. It's okay.
I have demonstrated.
Be on record denying how observational reality works. Please, PhD
Let's
Tony.
give Tony a chance now for 60 seconds.
I am denying that a flat Earth in any flat Earth model, celestial navigation would work. And in particular, I am denying that distance calculations on a flat Earth will ever be universally accurate, as spherical distance calculations are.
There's no way they can.
Pardon?
There's no way that you could take a flat plane and say, you know what, I'm going to put a spherical coordinate system on this and expect it to be accurate.
Well,
that's why they had problems with the Bermuda Triangle when they started doing that. And that was before the computers started taking over.
The Bermuda Triangle is
it was a navigational error. It was a myth. Error.
There is no unusual occurrences in the Bermuda Triangle. They suffer the same rate of accidents as any other equal area of ocean.
They thought they were flying over a ball.
So
that's Tony.
I'm still talking.
Yeah, they thought they were flying over a ball.
I'm still talking. I'm not going to let you interrupt me.
Okay, just take a deep breath.
Oh, you're right.
60, let's go 60 seconds to PhD Tony, and then we'll come back for 60 seconds.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I'm so flustered. I've almost forgotten. But the distance calculations, the spherical distance calculations, demonstrably do work. We can compare the spherical distance calculations for that train track in Western Australia, and they almost exactly match the track length. So the spherical distance is like 1,250 kilometers, and the track length is 1,280 kilometers. So you're saying that it's impossible, but when we look at it in practice, when we look at the length of a physical object, it works. So it happens. You're saying that something is impossible that actually occurs in observable reality. So you're wrong. This directly contradicts your position.
So are the train tracks in a perfectly straight line, or like what? I don't know anything about what you're talking about. Some train tracks in Australia prove the Earth is a ball.
James, can I have a word?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. So Matthew, just so that I can continue with this tack over here. Matthew, if you had a longitude and latitude coordinates of one place and the longitude and latitude coordinates of the other place, how would you determine the distance between them?
How would I determine that?
Yeah.
Most likely I'll probably just use my phone and check Google.
You would check Google? Google uses spherical
geometry.
How would a flat earther...
Like if I'm in Southern California, how am I supposed to measure the distance to like New York or Florida or Russia?
Well,
you know what I mean? You're allowing me to do some impossible stuff.
So Matthew, in fact, I'm talking to the fence sitters. So you can hear what Matthew.
Professor Bill, talk to me.
Hey Matthew, we just have to have one person at a time, like 60 seconds. I hope you're
listening.
Okay, I need you guys to just hear. What we're gonna do is we're gonna change this up a little bit. We'll have 60 seconds of one person, and when they're ready to hear from the other person. But remember, when you ask the other person a question during your 60 seconds, they oftentimes want to answer for longer than you want. And so if you ask them a question, consider it like you're ceding over your 60 seconds, because if you cut them off and you're like, all right, well, let me finish by 60 seconds, it's like, I would just say you get 60 seconds, and then you can say when you're done, you can pass it over to the other person.
Okay.
Go ahead, Phil.
Okay. All right, great. So pilots, ship captains, navigators all have to know the distance between two places that they're going to go because they need fuel. They want to work out the costs, all sorts of reasons why, and the direction that they're going. They all need to know the distance between places. They know the GPS coordinates of this place. They know the GPS coordinates of that place. They now calculate the distance between them. They calculate the distance between them. Can you please tell me, as a flat earther, as a flat earth pilot, or a flat earth navigator, or a flat earth shipping company owner, could you please tell me how you would calculate the distance between two places so that you can work out how long it'll take you to get there and how much fuel you're going to use? Can you please tell me how a flat earth pilot, shipping company owner, navigator would do that? Go ahead, Matthew.
Oh, you were talking to me? You first said you were talking to the fence sitters.
Well,
Just
you
go,
hopefully
Matthew.
will
You
listen
know what
now. You
Secondly,
can
and
answer the question.
I'm not a pilot. I'm not
So
a commercial shipping.
you can say I don't
magnate.
know, Matthew. Is that equivalent to saying you don't know?
No, I'm saying I'm not what you just said. Anything what you just said. So are you asking me a question or are you asking the fence sitters a question?
I'm asking you
Like,
how.
are you
Matthew,
talking to
why
me?
would he
Am
be
I?
asking them when they can't respond because they're watching at home without a microphone to respond on? He's talking, he's wanting a
Exactly.
response
So
from
why would he
you.
even address them? James, why would
He's
he even be
wanting a
addressing
response
them? It's
from
the
you,
opposite.
Matthew.
Okay, I would say I'm not a pilot or a shipping magnate. I'm not any of those things. And
May I,
address me. I'm right here, not people out in the audience. Address me, please. I'm right here.
may I
Good.
briefly present something?
Yeah, go ahead,
It's
Tony.
just a few moments, sorry.
I think I've made my point, so go
Yes,
ahead.
you have. Okay, is that showing? So, again, sort of, this is the flat Earth. If we know the distance to the North Pole, we know the angle subtended at the North Pole. This is the formula for the distance along that red side. Similarly, this is we can construct a spherical triangle, and this is how we do distance calculations. This is how we calculate the fuel needed for ships, the fuel needed for planes, the amount of food that early explorers needed. This is how we do this. And, in the original presentation, this is Captain Bly's journey of, nearly 7,000 kilometers. He wanted to do it without making landfall because they had trouble being attacked by natives. We've got this journey from of more than 1,000 kilometers by Shackleton and his crew when they were stranded in the Antarctic. And this is the example I was talking about before. So the spherical distance estimate is 1,242 kilometers between Tacora and Kalgoorlie. The track separation, the length of the track between the two, is 1,280 kilometers. The flat Earth distance using the formula that geometrically must apply is 3,039 kilometers. The flat Earth formula is wrong. The spherical distance formula is right. You said that this was an impossibility. You said that this couldn't happen, yet here it is, and it happened. So what is your explanation?
May I speak? Okay, yeah, I think maybe there's just something probably wrong with your formulas. And when I look at the map you presented, it doesn't look like a straight line either. So there could be some sort of difference about the lengths that you're trying to present. So
2,000.
I mean, you want to say that because of your equation, somehow the Earth is a ball because you can say, look at this train tracks in Australia. Look at this diagram. Look at all these numbers. And it's like, well, the numbers usually don't add up to reality. Okay. Like that 8 inches per mile square that seems to be so elusive. Okay. But I appreciate your diagrams, Tony. I'm just not convinced.
Okay.
Of course you're not.
Well, That's okay.
I appreciate your diagrams, but I'm not convinced.
Of course you're not, Matthew.
Thank you, Professor Bill.
Okay. So, looking over my notes, most of them were for Tacori's, but it honestly feels like, regardless of the evidence that is presented, regardless of the form that evidence takes, and regardless of the nature of the explanation, that ultimately Matthew is just going to say, well, I don't believe it.
Vice versa.
And I don't now, normally in a debate, both sides are under an obligation to substantiate their claims and present evidence or logical arguments in support of their claims. And I feel that Phil and I have done that, but it leaves me at something of a loss as to where we can go from here, or how worthwhile it might be exploring topics.
Well,
I'd
maybe
like
if
to
you
ask
had
him
some
if he
better
thinks-
evidence, better evidence for a globe, I might be convinced.
I'd like to ask Matthew if he thinks space is fake.
You mean the space between us?
No, you know, it's a common thing that flat earthers say space is fake. For
Like
instance,
at what altitude do you mean? Like, you mean the other side of the firmament?
He means above 100 kilometers elevation.
Let's say, for instance, the 400 kilometers that it takes to get to where the ISS is, or the 36,000 kilometers that it takes to get to a geostationary satellite. Is that all fake?
Yeah, I think a lot of what is presented to the public is just meant to manipulate us. I don't think anything's going on. What do you mean?
How is it wrong? How is it wrong?
There's a lot of reasons why it doesn't work out in reality. For example, a lot of the satellites that you think are in space, they're actually on balloons. And a lot of our telecommunications is undersea cables, so forth, and using towers that transmit the signal.
Okay, so Matthew,
outer space.
So Matthew, you said that you just made the assertion that satellites are on balloons. When we observe the satellites, they streak across the sky, and it takes about an hour and a half to get around the world once. Just once to get around the whole world, to get around.
That's an assumption.
Just once.
That's an assumption.
Matthew,
that's a measurement.
They're traveling at 10 times faster than any known fighter jet. They never need fuel. They're shaped like a soda can. They have no aerodynamic flights. Matthew, listen for a change. You might actually learn something. These objects have no aerodynamic flight surfaces, no aerodynamic controls. They carry no fuel, and yet
they don't exist. And they don't exist.
You just said they exist on balloons, Matthew.
Not in outer space. You just said they don't have fuel. They don't have this. They don't have that.
I'm talking about you.
They don't exist.
They exist. You agreed that they exist, and you said that they were on balloons.
Well, not in outer space. They don't exist in
I don't care where you think they are, Matthew.
What you
said they were on balloons. You said they were on balloons.
There's video of those satellites on balloons coming down, crashing into people's yards. So yeah, that's true.
That's a category fallacy. I just want to point that out. That some satelloons exist does not mean that satellites are satelloons. And you couldn't even stay silent long enough to hear basic logic explained to you. That some satellite observations take the form of satelloons does not mean that all satellites are satelloons. That's an invalid syllogism.
But it proves what I'm saying, that they are on balloons.
No,
there are satellites on balloons. We can agree that.
You are claiming that all satellites are on balloons.
No,
and your argument is
not all.
Your argument is because some satellites are on balloons. Well, what proportion of satellites are on balloons?
I don't know. I'm not in aerospace.
Is it more than
defense.
50%?
I'm not in DARPA.
Okay.
I'm not part of the
Well,
Space Command.
I
But just
actually,
the fact that there are satellites on balloons. Okay, you cannot deny that.
Yes, I can't deny that, but I can deny that all satellites are on balloons, because as Phil pointed out, at about 400 kilometers, the velocity of a satellite is 7 kilometers a second, around about. So yeah, balloons don't move that fast. They can't move that fast. And you can photograph them, you can film them doing their transits. And you can also film them falling out of space and re-entering Earth's atmosphere. So the claim that this isn't observed, it's all made up. There are literally thousands of photographs of satellite trajectories. Why don't you accept them?
All that because honestly, everything about space, we should have already been having like colonies on the moon. If the moon was a rock, like the globe theory says, people should have already been living on Mars. We should have already had Star Trek-like space stations. That we don't have any of that. It's all like a fairy tale, guys.
Okay.
Sorry to tell you.
Can I?
I would love
share
to
my
go to the
screen
moon.
again?
I would love to go to the moon.
Okay.
What's stopping you? What's stopping anybody?
The moon is not a physical thing like a rock to land
Look,
on.
it certainly is.
Okay. So
You ever looked in a telescope?
here are some time-lapse images of satellite trajectories above Earth. Here are some photographs from the ground of the Discovery space shuttle on one of its final trajectories approaching the International Space Station. Here's a photograph taken from the ground of a spacewalk taken by a European observer. Here are images of geostationary satellites, time-lapse images, so you can see all of the stars are moving, but the geostationary satellites remain little dots of light because they're stationary relative to the background.
So they're not moving then. They're just basically hovering above the Earth.
They're not moving.
Hey, Tony, you just gave another flat Earth proof that the stars move, but the Earth and these geostationary things, they're not moving.
The geostationary, as was explained to you previously, their orbits are synchronized with Earth's rotation. And again, you won't be silent long enough. They're not moving relative to their ground point. They are remaining roughly stationary.
Just to hear one at a time. Hold on, Matthew, if you can just let Tony finish.
Okay, got it.
They are moving around Earth, but their position relative to the ground point is remaining fixed. There's no contradiction there. That is not a flat Earth proof, as you claim.
Matthew, what do you see on the screen?
This looks like a bunch of lights on a screen.
Those are the Starlink. That's a Starlink constellation. There's about 60 satellites in that group. They streak across the sky more than 10 times faster than any fighter jet known.
Okay, so maybe they have some really advanced technology that they're not letting the people know about.
Do you think that's 60 balloons flying in single file?
No, they're not all balloons. I think they could have things that are like, they're not technology that we can really imagine. I think they have things.
You think, Matthew? We don't have to think.
You just asked me a question. You just asked me. I mean, are we having a conversation, Professor Phil?
Go ahead, Matthew. Go ahead.
Okay. They could have things like high altitude planes, jets, things that are faster than what we know about, what the public knows about. I mean, do you know in the United States, the government, they're trying to push the UFO agenda on the people. They're showing videos of this stuff. I don't believe it either, but they're saying there's crafts that outperform the best things that are known. So I think maybe the government is like, I really do think the government has this technology. So what you're showing, I think the government has this technology, but they're not letting the people know that they have such advanced stuff That's
You
possible.
actually believe that, right?
That the government has stuff
Tell all the fence sitters out there that you actually believe that.
I'm not talking to the fence sitters. I'm talking to you, Professor Phil Bell.
Yeah. But but by
I'm letting
talking
you
to me,
know
you're
my
talking to them
opinion.
too.
If you ask me what I
Right.
think,
So Matthew,
I'll
let's
say
just
it.
finish this. Let's finish
Okay.
this. Okay. So you said that. So you agree now these can't be on balloons, right? Because nothing
I
on a
mean, who
balloon
knows? I'm not
travel
there
10
to see it.
faster than a fighter jet, right? Do you
Well, I
think
don't
that
know.
if something was to travel as fast as just as fast as a fighter jet, never mind 10 times faster, that it would have to have aerodynamic flight surfaces and
Like
maybe
what?
even aerodynamic controls?
Excuse me?
Do you know what aerodynamic flight surfaces means?
You mean like how it flies through the air?
No, like wings, for instance.
Well, I mean, it depends on what type of thing this is. I mean, I'm not sure that's even a physical object I'm looking at.
There's
I'm
60
seeing
of
light.
them. You can see
I'm
the
seeing light.
date.
I don't see any physical things. I just see light.
But they weren't there before the rocket went up, and then they're there all of a sudden. You think God put
I
them
don't
there?
know. I mean,
You
they
think
could
God
project
you
things.
think
I
God
think
put them there?
light can be projected from the ground. I don't know.
You think
But
that
you
aliens
want me
put
to
them there?
believe, you want me to believe that these things are in outer space. And I'm saying, nah, they could be like, I don't know how high up in the sky. They don't have to be in outer space.
I don't. You
Can you
just said
please
something.
explain how they out there without flight surfaces, without aerodynamic flight surfaces, without any fuel? And look, there's the date there, 2019. How on
Yeah,
earth
a
can
couple years
something
ago.
be traveling 10 times faster than a fighter jet without fuel?
Dude, the United States government is on that. They're asking the same questions.
You need to convince all the people out there that are watching this show
Dude, you just said it.
that you actually believe that.
I don't believe any of all this.
You actually
I
know
don't believe
then.
that
You
those are in
actually know
space.
about
I
some
don't believe
government
they're in
program.
space.
You know about a government program.
Professor
Now,
Phil
let me
Bell,
finish.
I'm not the government to be releasing these UFO files. I'm not Congress to be holding meetings about this stuff. I am not a
isn't
conspiracy
UFOs.
theorist. I'm looking at lights. You're showing me a picture of
Yeah.
lights. You expect me to believe they're in outer space.
They weren't there.
Which I don't believe. I don't believe outer space. So
Matthew, they weren't there before the rocket went up there. They were there after the rocket went up there, released them in
there's
single
something up
file,
there.
and then they're
there's
up
something
there.
up there. So there's something up there.
Yeah, Starlink.
You want me to believe they're in some type of outer space when really those could just be like at the level of where the clouds are. What?
Where do you think? Do you think they're in the air? Do you think they can travel 10 times faster than a fighter jet in the air without fuel? Do you think
that's what our government is showing us? Our government is showing us like Navy footage. Listen, they're showing Navy video, and I don't believe it, okay? But the government is showing Navy recordings of pilots interacting with these things.
No, they're not.
Not these specific lights, but not these
Go ahead, Tony. Maybe you can help him with this.
Help me, Tony. Help me, Tony.
Right.
Go ahead,
so
Tony.
The topic turned to belief. Believe. You want me to believe?
You want me to believe this?
No, I don't. What I want to do here is to present the available evidence. Whether or not you believe the available evidence is your choice. You can choose to disbelieve it all you want. You've made but your reasoning here, you've made up your mind before you see the evidence. I've shown you evidence of Earth rotation that you've never seen before, and you just decided to disregard it. I've shown you evidence from earthquake trajectories. I've shown you evidence from distance measurements, and you've just rejected it all because you've decided you've got a belief, and anything that contradicts that belief just gets rejected. And that isn't a good epistemology. It's not a good way to work out whether or not something is true. In order to work out whether or not something is supported by the facts, you have to be capable of accepting new facts and working out what level of confidence you should assign to them. And what you're doing is you're saying I have zero confidence in all of these scientific results, in all of this scientific methodology, but I've got 100% confidence in my own observational capacity, my own logical capacity, and my own belief system. And again, I just don't think that that is a good way to get to truth. You are basically just gatekeeping and saying this. Yes, you're gatekeeping your own belief system. If there's any evidence that contradicts your belief system, I'm still in the. I'm still in the. I'm just about.
Tony is still talking, Matthew.
Let's
Can you
give
please
Tony
be
a
quiet?
chance. Let's give Tony a chance to wrap up. I will give.
Okay.
I'll give you a chance to respond, Matthew, in just a moment, because I know that Tony has.
I was just about to wrap up. You are basically filtering what you will accept as real or not based on whether or not it agrees with your presupposed assumptions. And again, I just don't think that that's a valid epistemological approach.
What's up? Go ahead. This is a great opportunity, Matthew. What were you about to say?
Okay, yeah. Hey, PhDTony. Everything you just said, that actually applies to you. This whole time, I don't think you cared about anything I said. Any argument I made, any counter argument I made, and every evidence that you brought up, I'm just asking questions. And it seemed like you didn't care about anything I said. So your statement, actually, you need to take your own advice, take your own medicine, right? Because if you got good information, I'll consider it. But all you guys shown like diagrams, formulas, you know, it doesn't.
Actual photographs.
Yeah, of lights in the sky.
And the ISS.
I don't. Well, you know, we got to establish first, you know, that the outer space exists. We haven't established that outer space exists. We haven't established that the Earth moves. We can look at diagrams of how the Earth moves, but we cannot observe the Earth moving.
Except that I have presented. So here's the argument, Matthew. The reason why I have confidence in my epistemology, and you present stuff that I think is just fundamentally, factually, and logically flawed. That's why I reject it, and I can make that argument to a neutral observer, and they will agree with me. The fact is that the only people you're going to get to agree with you are people who are so inclined. I don't think that's a good system. I know, based on my life experience, that I can correctly interpret sensory information, that I can correctly interpret technical information, and that I can relay my understanding of this to other people, and that I can correctly assess when there are holes in the logic that's presented to me. I've been tested on this, and I've had it confirmed that I can do this quite reliably. And I know a bunch of other people who have similarly been tested and are similarly reliable when they undertake these tasks, Phil being one of them. My question then is, why should I have any confidence in stuff that you say is logical when I and everybody else whose opinion I trust as a reliable observer of reality disagrees with you?
Because I encourage people to think for themselves and not just take other people's word for what reality is.
Yes, I quite agree, except that there's a limit to that. The sum of human knowledge is so vast that one person cannot master it.
I agree.
One person cannot know everything. So we have reached a point where we have to have experts in particular topics. In particular, there is a branch of science called geodesy, which is the scientific study of the shape of the Earth, and it's been around for more than 100 years. And so the claim that scientists haven't been looking at this, there's a bunch of evidence out there that you are ignorant of. You haven't studied this field of knowledge.
You too, Tony. You too. There's
yes,
information.
There may well be, but I know more about the shape of the Earth than you do. I know more about satellite orbits than you do. Yes, these are facts.
Maybe
You can claim that they're not, but these are facts. And you know, your assertion to the contrary, what evidence do you have? Have you undertaken a course of education? Are you capable of any real world analysis? Do you hold any credentials? Have any subject matter experts looked
at
at
this
your
point,
work
at this
and
point,
assessed
you
it as
wanna
valid?
you wanna get who I am personally versus what I'm talking about. Like my ideas and my argument. We're not talking about
no.
me
You
personally,
need to
who
back
I
up your
am.
arguments with
You know,
evidence,
and you know what
Matthew.
I would say, Tony, I wanted to respond, but I just was listening to you talk. It doesn't matter if 99.99999% of the people believed a lie for 6,000 years. It doesn't matter. It's time for the truth.
Except that you've no evidence except your own misinterpretation of physics. You don't understand how momentum works. You don't understand how wind works. You don't understand
Wait. I don't know how wind works. I told you wind goes in different directions at different speeds. It proves that the Earth's not rotating.
No, that doesn't prove that the Earth isn't rotating.
Wind goes in different directions. Look at the jet streams. Look at the way the different air. What causes air to move? There's probably some type of thermodynamic principles at play with the hot and cold air and the pressures involved with moisture. I'm not a scientist of that.
Okay,
but the proof
But there are people who do know, Matthew.
Goes in different directions at different speeds.
Yes, we all accept that is true. Where we diverge is you say, therefore Earth can't be a spinning ball.
True.
And I say that is not a logically valid construction. That does not make sense. That does not logically follow from your axiom.
But how so?
Because the Earth doesn't predict that winds can't flow in different directions. The globe model doesn't predict that winds can't flow in different directions, because the Earth is largely stationary relative to the surface of the Earth, and therefore temperature fluctuations and pressure differentials can cause winds to blow in whatever direction.
You said it. You were talking about how the wind, how the air above the Earth, it's basically stationary.
Relative to the Earth.
Listen,
relative to the Earth.
And the Earth is not moving. That's the reason.
Except that I have produced evidence that it is moving. You just reject that evidence.
It's unsatisfactory evidence.
No, it's unsatisfactory to you because you have decided it is unsatisfactory because it contradicts your belief system.
No, the reason it's unsatisfactory it's not comparable to reality. What you're saying happens is not I look at reality, it is not what you're saying is happening.
Yes, but this is the weakness of your epistemology. The epistemology that 99.99999% of people disagree with you. So how would you go about curing a delusion? Suppose you were deluded.
Okay.
How would your delusion be corrected? And you've got no technique.
Well, we have to look at
any evidence. You won't. I'm still talking. You won't listen. You won't listen to any evidence that contradicts your position. You have absolute faith in your observational and logical abilities, and absolutely zero faith in anybody else's honesty. So anyone who tries to correct you from a delusional position or a counterfactual position is fighting a Sisyphean battle, where you just reset after 30 seconds and say, no, I don't believe that. So this is why I think your epistemology is fundamentally flawed. It can end up with you trapped in a unreal and fantastic interpretation of reality.
Can I ask Matthew a question, please?
Yep.
Yeah. So Matthew, just recently a group of people went to Punta Arenas. That's where they started, right? They started this journey. At Punta Arenas, while they were there, it was around about midnight. They were looking directly south, You know something? They noticed that the sun was down there directly south. Now, we all agree that the sun is all the way up at the Tropic of Capricorn. So how did they see the sun while at Punta Arenas, which is right near the bottom of South America? How did they see the sun in the southerly direction when the sun is completely north of them?
Okay, may I respond?
How is
to
it
this?
in the middle
May
of
I
the
respond
night?
to this?
In the middle of the night, they could see the
Gotcha, I
sun.
got you. Don't get upset. Don't get upset.
I'm not.
Can I respond to
Sorry,
this? Can I respond to this?
Matthew.
Okay.
Matthew.
I debated this with Craig Fight the Flat Earth. We
I do want
debated
to.
this
Okay, hold on.
issue
Just to
for
be sure.
9
Okay,
hours.
we'll give you a
9
full
hours.
60 seconds, Matthew. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matthew. How did they see the sun
Okay.
right down facing south?
So what? Okay, Craig Fight the Flat Earth and we debated this issue for 9 hours. We established in the first part that it is impossible to see that. It is impossible for there to be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Okay.
I didn't ask about 24-hour sun.
Hold up. The next part, we established two things: that Austin lied and Will Duffy lied.
Viewers, you see how he deflects?
No, I'm answering your question directly.
No, he's not.
On this show,
No, you're not.
on this show, we debated, is the final experiment fake or not?
Yes.
And all that happened was just hate speech, and just that was all the Globers could do.
Can I
And I don't believe, and just to put a bow on it, I think it was all fruit of a poisonous tree. I think all the anomalies, glitches, mistakes, and how the Globers were discrediting Austin before and after was a huge blunder. But just as an observer of the final experiment, I reject it. It's contaminated, and I call it Duffy's failure.
And how did they see the sun while they were facing south at Punta Arenas in the middle of the night? How did they see the sunlight facing south? They
lied, dude. They lied.
They didn't. They had photographs of it. They
actually did live streams. Just like the moon landing.
They actually did live streams with it.
They had a bunch of videos and pictures of the alleged moon landing. That turned out to be fake too.
But again, we've run
Deflection.
into the problem. We've run into the problem of your epistemology. You say we established that in your debates with.
We did.
No, we didn't. You came to that conclusion after those debates. That is not the same as establishing something or demonstrating something to the satisfaction of a neutral observer. What your most recent debate established for me was that Craig was incredibly rude to you, and you know, I let him know, and he has apologized to James and to Ryan. I don't know if he reached out to you to apologize yet, but I feel you deserve one based on.
It's okay. I appreciate that, Tony.
But even as rude as he was, I didn't think that you did establish. I don't find your arguments persuasive, and you know that probably doesn't come as a surprise to you. But you know we're kind of back to the when you say we established and you say that as a fact.
Yeah.
It's your interpretation of what happened, and it's not necessarily shared by neutral observers. I would argue. So I would just caution that when you say something like we established, you concluded.
Well, it's there. I mean, you could, if you can stomach it, watch those debates. He uses best computer programs to try to show how that observation could take place, but he could not. That's my point. It's not just me saying it. He used his best computer programs to try to show how it could be possible, and he couldn't. And then in the next one, we talked about all the mistakes. Okay, we don't need to get into all that, but about final experiment, just personally, yeah, like they could have done better. They could have hired better people. They could have hired like better Hollywood CGI people. You know, that's how I feel.
That isn't really the topic of the conversation. So let's bring it back to.
Okay, we can get off.
So you think the photos that they took of the sunlight facing south while they were at Punta Arenas were all CGI?
No, I think some of the videos and pictures came from Will Duffy begging people to
They weren't from
report the
Bill Duffy.
sun
They
for
were
him.
live streamed. They were
No,
live
listen,
streamed.
no, listen. They some of that was right, but not a 24-hour live stream. They
I'm
didn't.
not talking
They
about
didn't.
that.
They
I'm
didn't.
talking about the sunlight. The sunlight
Yeah.
viewable from Punta Arenas in the middle of the night, facing directly south. How is it possible for the sun to be directly south at
We
Punta
got to
Arenas?
make those observations. I would have to go look at those for
It
myself.
was a live stream. Would that change your mind if you saw it?
Well, I mean, for me personally, sure.
Of course not.
But I mean,
Okay.
I would have to go check it out. But honestly, anything about
I'll be glad to
final
help you do that.
experiment, yeah, anything about final experiment, no,
It's not
contaminated.
I'm not talking about that. We're just only talking about
Punta
the
Serena.
sunlight, the sun from standing at Punta Arenas, looking directly south at midnight, and you can see the sunlight
To,
directly south.
Timur,
At midnight.
But I mean,
Timur-
but are you saying you're seeing sunlight or daylight, some type
well,
of light?
so to more accurately describe this, they saw the sun go down to the southwest, and then they saw it travel sort of. You know how sometimes you can see sort of sunlight over the horizon. There's a sort of a pre-dawn glow or something.
Yeah,
like
glow.
that. Yeah. So they saw the glow of the sun disappear and then move below the horizon back towards the southeast, where the sun rose the next morning.
So it disappeared.
So they were able to see the glow of the sun below the horizon.
So it disappeared then.
At midnight.
Yes, but they were able to see the glow of the sun over the horizon, and yes, the sun did disappear, but they could still tell that the sun was south of them because they could see the glow over the horizon.
I think we need to get some more observational data of people not involved with final experiment. I think that'd be a lot better. That's just my opinion. Don't hate me for not believing
the
that
streams with
production,
CGI?
okay? Just
The
don't,
live streams
like,
with CGI?
the live streams, they could
Were
all
they
be
CGI, were they?
to me, and it's okay if you don't like my answer. All of it is fruit of a poisonous tree. All of it, top to bottom. Green screen, right? Green screen malfunctions.
Deflection.
All
this
of
is
it.
this again is a case of it's very easy to come up with excuses for just rejecting a body of evidence outright because you don't like the person who did it, you don't like they lied once, and these are logical fallacies. Even if somebody did lie once, that doesn't mean that they are always lying. That's a logical fallacy. And the idea that you reject evidence just because of the people involved in collecting the evidence, that's called the ad hominem fallacy. An argument is not true based on who is presenting it or who collected the evidence or whatever. Observations are valid if they are procedurally correct and correctly interpreted.
Okay, that's the problem. I don't consider that it's legitimately collected data. I don't think that they legitimately collected it. Considering all the mistakes, nothing should be considered legitimate of it.
We're going to jump into...
I think we should get on with the super chats.
He's right. We're going to jump into it right now. Do want to encourage you folks, a couple of things. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, Modern Day Debates crowdfunds now ship internationally. Check out that link in the description box. That helps pay for the hotel nights and the flights of the speakers. Namely, Indiegogo is a crowdfund platform. You get cool perks if you help support the project of DebateCon 5 next month. And we ship those perks globally, as I mentioned. That thermometer on the right side of the screen shows you our goal. And we are 15% of the way there. We have about 27 days left, and we are going to crush that goal. But want to say thanks for all your support. That's linked below.
I'm not offended for not being invited. No, that's okay.
We are going to eventually. We want to get our Australian friends over there. We have. We are excited that Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, will be there. So he's coming from across the pond, and we are no joke. We are. Australia is so far.
It is so
it's so far.
That was a joke. It's also much more expensive to get to pay for air flights, but just putting my name out there. If the money does become available, like, yeah, I'll do it for you.
We
Well,
want
you
to
could
move
go
in
to
that direction
Santiago
in
and
the
then go
future.
north from there.
The walking, you think? Yeah, okay.
This is going to be a tremendous Q&A, and I appreciate your guys' enthusiasm. Folks, thanks for your questions. This first one coming in from Thunderstorm said, since the Earth is a beautiful, living, organic, misshapen oval covered in water with a thick atmosphere giving a fishbowl, create flat data and Earth reference as round instead of oval, give pause. It's a little bit hard to
Okay,
understand.
so it is so the ellipticity of Earth is not that large, so it's about 0.3%. 1 in 300. So the radius of Earth at the equator is about I think 20 kilometers larger than the radius at the radius to the North Pole, something like that. But it's
in the
it is practically a perfect sphere. If you had a pool, if the Earth were the size of a pool ball, it would be smoother than the pool ball than an actual pool ball is. So yeah, I'm not sure I correctly interpreted the question, but yeah, there's no problem.
I have something to add to that, though, Tony, and that is he did say that the atmosphere was thick. It's actually not that thick.
Yeah,
okay? So the bulk of the atmosphere, about more than 90% of the atmosphere exists in only 30 kilometers. And beyond that, because it's gets exponentially less and less. By the time it gets to 100 kilometers, there's practically none of it left.
Yeah. Even so,
and there's
I
no
mean,
dome.
yeah. Well, even so, like we have to consider drag effects on the satellites that we use, which are at about
Of course you do,
400 kilometers. But exactly so. But the decay of pressure as you move higher, and I will just mention this, is exactly in agreement with the atmosphere being a hydrostatic fluid. That is, that it's a fluid where the pressure is due to the weight of the overlying material under the effect of gravity. That is exactly how pressure in Earth's atmosphere decays. It gives you a roughly exponential term.
And Matthew, we wouldn't know this except that pilots, that airplanes, they know how high they are above the ground because of the change in pressure. Okay,
that's how they know. Pressure. Barometric
that's
pressure.
Their
right?
instruments. Their instruments actually, their instruments, the instruments that measure pressure is what tells them their altitude.
Yes.
Amazing, isn't it?
I know that barometric pressure, right? Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
So we don't have a problem with that then.
Might be an opportunity to
That's
jump to
got
the next
nothing to do with gravity at all.
Yeah, that's right.
Thunderstorm says,
Let's go
if
to
the
the next
Earth was a loaf of bread filled with meatballs and cheese, would you take a bite? Hell, I would. I'd take 2 bites. Thank you for that. Megan Marie, thank you very much for your super set. Excited to go to DebateCon for the first time. That, folks, is in Newark, New Jersey next month. If you're in that area, check out that link in the description box for DebateCon 5. Says, can't wait to meet everyone. Earth is a glazed donut. Thank you for that, Megan. And Sunflower says, flat earthers are mostly people who basically, they said you became fixated on technicalities in an attempt to contribute to society in a meaningful way. Let's see, this is a kind of a cynical approach there. Matthew, what are your thoughts? He says that you're trying to contribute to society by just picking out these like little technicalities that aren't really meaningful. What's your response, Matthew?
I think that's a ridiculous response. I think I'm addressing some really important things here that actually prove the Earth is flat and stationary. And to say that, oh, it's just nothing. It's like, well, if it was nothing, there wouldn't be such a huge censorship and movement against flat earthers and all the hate speech that we suffer. If it really was that meaningless, why would they care? And so I think you get the most flack when you're above the target. So yeah, keep fighting, flat earthers, keep doing it. Keep doing
May
it.
I respond a little bit?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do notice in this is that there are a lot of people on the globe side who are only on the globe side in order to yell at flat earthers. They feel like and that's what they're in for. They don't actually understand the data. They don't understand the model, and they oftentimes they're more ignorant about the discussion than the flat earthers are. But they see flat earthers as somebody that they can essentially bully. And I think that that is reprehensible. And I think that, we should be coming into this discussion to present the best evidence on both sides, and leaving where possible character assassinations aside. I have had interactions with flat earthers that became quite heated, and indeed I'm famous for it. But I feel like that was in very different circumstances. I think Matthew's been very civil, and people shouldn't attack flat earthers in the way that they do. They should focus on presenting the evidence because the evidence is overwhelming.
Man, thank
Well,
you
can
very
I-
much.
let me-
That's
let
some
me add
beautiful
something to
words,
this,
man.
please.
That's some beautiful
Let
words.
me add something to this. And so, Matthew, nobody hates you, and nobody hates the flat earthers. But what we do disagree with is the idea behind what you have. And one of the problems with that, Matthew, is that a lot of the flat earthers actually have a great deal of influence over children. Okay, now if they start telling children that science is not to be believed, gravity is false, space is fake, there's no satellites, balloons can move 10 times faster than a fighter jet. We're actually turning our children into, should I say it, morons. Okay.
I'll give you the
not
last
fair.
word,
That's
Matthew,
not fair
because
at all.
I'll give
That's
you the
not
last
fair.
word, Matthew. Hold on one sec. I'll give you the last word, Matthew, because this super chat was aimed at you, but then we got to go to the next one.
Okay, just to put a bow on it, I mean, who cares if a kid's a flat earther? Let them think for themselves. I went over this with other people in the past. Like, yeah, would you like punish your kids if they were flat earthers? Disown them? No, but they could think for themselves. I mean, I was forced to believe the globe theory. What does that
Gotcha.
tell you?
Let's
You
jump
know,
to
that's it.
LJ's question. It says, why doesn't Earth spin under a hovering helicopter?
This question, every single time this guy wastes his money on this question, because the atmosphere is moving at the same rate as the underlying Earth. Therefore, there is no relative motion or very little relative motion between the helicopter and the Earth underneath. This has been asked and answered in every single flat Earth debate. It is not a point in favor. And I want to go into the mindset again. What you're requiring is every scientist that has been born in the past 70 years since the invention of the helicopter has looked at a helicopter and just failed to put two and two together, because every scientist from the past 7 years is that grotesquely stupid that you, looking at a helicopter, or as Tacori was saying, a swing, can see something that the world's greatest minds can't come to grips with. It's nonsense. Anyway.
Must move
I
on
would
to the
not
next
call
one.
I would
Very
not call those
debate.
people the greatest minds if they're thinking
This I
that
do
the
want to
Earth
give.
is
Hold on, I do want to
Sorry.
forgive me, but I want to keep it so that we give the last word to the person that the super chat was directed to. LJ says, show us a fully working and physical globe model.
So this idea is nonsense. I can't give you a physical model of an atom. That doesn't mean that atoms don't exist. I can't give you a physical model of mountain creation. That doesn't stop mountains from being created by geological processes. So the claim that scientific models have to be mechanical is ludicrous. It's a non-point and it's a non-question. And I know that Whitsitt has been going to it with increasing frequency, but it's just fatuous. Sorry, Phil, I'm monopolizing.
You're quite right, Tony. That was well put. What you need to do is when we talk about a model, we're not talking about physical things. We're not talking about a model train or a model car. Okay, a model is like a whole bunch of ideas in which you put inputs and you get outputs from them. So in other words, how an equation works. Okay, for instance, pick any of the equation the force for gravity, for instance, F equals G m1 m2 over r squared. That's a model. That's because we can put inputs into it, we can make predictions out of it, and then we can use the outputs from it, exploit the outputs for the good of what we want to do. Okay, that's
Jump to
what
the
the
next
model
one.
is for.
This one from
Yep.
Burnham says, flat Earth side. Please derive the 9.8 meter per second squared downward acceleration without using mass attracting mass.
Measure it.
Are they asking me like why? What is the reason there is a down?
No, they're asking you why is it 9.8 meters per second squared?
Because there's something about weight and density, how things fall like that. I'm not God to create it, but
Let's see.
you know,
I don't
We
know. I
understand
think they're
that,
going to
Matt.
say they want more detail. But
like
you feel
like
good on
why
that?
is there a down? Like I don't really understand the question. They're asking like why is down going at a certain speed?
Why is the downward acceleration, why does that have a value of 9.8 meters per second
okay,
squared?
okay, I understand. The reason is, let me listen to what I'm saying. Gravity says that greater the mass, the greater the force of attraction. So when we see things of different masses falling at the same rate, we can know that gravity is a lie.
Then we'll jump to the next one.
And
This
you
one coming in.
derive that how?
Hango we got that. We if it's an insult, folks, we're gonna kind of slip past it. LJ says,
Yeah.
what's the proof of Jupiter's mass, size, and gravity?
I'd like to answer that question.
Yep.
Okay, so basically a very long time ago, so in the times of Kepler, for instance, was meticulous at measuring things, was able to determine that the planets actually moved around in an ellipse, for instance, around the sun, and their moons moved in an ellipse around them, and they could work out. So in other words, these orbits were happening. Now, they didn't actually understand exactly why that did happen. However, thankfully, we had Newton come along and have a look at those same orbits and very, very carefully derived equations that told us why those things were happening the way they do, and that's basically gravitational field. So, in other words, those things have gravitational fields, which is the reason that objects orbit around them. A satellite, for instance, orbits around the Earth because that is an equilibrium between the centrifugal motion, that's a force that's happening. In other words, something that's moving very fast has a centrifugal force, a force that's likely to take it away, except for the fact that there's something else pulling it towards the Earth, and that's the Earth's gravitational field. So because those two things are in balance, the satellite is able to move 10 times faster than a fighter jet with no fuel, no flight surfaces, and no flight controls.
There's one coming in
Yeah.
from Burnham says, now for the globe side, please derive the 9.8 meters per second squared downward acceleration.
Yeah, so the formula there is gm over r squared. More fully, you should take the integral over the entire ellipsoid because Earth's gravitational field is not uniform. And so the fact that that would be the acceleration g times the gm for Earth. The g times the mass of the Earth divided by the radius of Earth squared would be a good approximation, and that fits out to 9.8 meters per second squared.
I just want to add to this as well for the benefit of everybody, and that is when we talk about this, there's two different things. We talk about the Earth's gravitational field strength, and we talk about the means by which we measure that field strength. So what we notice that this gravitational field has an effect on things. It causes them to accelerate. So one of the ways that we can measure what this gravitational field strength is by the magnitude of the acceleration of that how much they accelerate. They're not the same thing, though. There's a gravitational field, and then there's the means by which we measure the gravitational field. So when we're talking about gravitational field, that's the newtons per kilogram. Okay? When we're talking about acceleration, that's meters per second squared. It's often confused between the two of them, but they are different things.
Okay.
We'll jump into the next one. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. LJ says, we got that one. Wizard gets it. It says, Tony and Dr. Bell, do you both agree that conceptual abstractions cannot have physical properties?
I think that's a flippant question. It's obviously true that abstractions don't have physical. Well, it's not even obvious that that's true, because if I conceive of an abstraction, it has a physical existence in terms of the neurochemical processes inside my brain. I just don't see how this is a meaningful question of any sort. So there you go. Phil, maybe you can make sense of it.
Hey, I was having trouble.
I would say that if you
also.
so if you had a dream about a building, so you had a dream, and so you were conceptualizing a building in your head. There's lots of things about that building which you would put together that would make, because of your experiences in life, you wouldn't make a building ridiculous so that it couldn't stand up, because your life experience would force you to build things in a way that they would. A ship would look like a ship in your dream. A building would look like a building in your dream. Okay? So these are conceptual things, but these conceptual things match real things on the outside. They must, because you wouldn't be able to conceptualize them in the way that they do, so that they structurally sound, unless you had those sort of experiences that you put together. So your question actually doesn't have much meaning in that sense. It's interesting philosophy.
It sounds to me like a scripted question where he wants to direct the conversation into something about scientific rules and their relationship to reality. But regardless, it's meretricious nonsense.
Hey, I wanted to hear the question again, if that's possible, James.
It's really more for the other guys. I do want to, forgive me, it's just that I want to get through as many questions as we can.
Okay, no problem.
King044 says, let's see. It's just an insult for Whitson. They also said, though, did the Flat Earth folks watch the video of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica? The sun is still set in New Zealand during the filming of it. That means that a flat Earth is impossible. Whitsitt was there. He could tell you about it. Matthew, it sounds like you are digging your heels in. You think that the final experiment was a hoax. You think that wasn't, but is it? I hate to, just to get your take on it, not to take sides, but what's your take on the fact that you've talked about how this is kind of like a divine thing, that the people who are flat Earth are kind of like, that's like they're kind of more faithful to God. But Patrick Duffy is a pastor, isn't he a pastor? And
Patrick Duffy's an actor. Patrick Duffy was on Step by Step and other sitcoms. Will Duffy is the guy.
Is he also a pastor?
You're thinking of Will Duffy.
But okay, but
Will Duffy is the pastor.
They're not mutually exclusive, right? So like, is he also a pastor though?
No, James. You said the name Patrick Duffy. That's a different
sorry
guy.
about that.
That guy's an actor, and Will Duffy is the pastor, or alleged pastor, who did the final experiment fiasco.
Good ear, Matthew. You're right. Patrick Duffy was the father on the hit comedy sitcom Step by Step, if I remember right.
Yeah.
That was a great show. But Patrick Duffy, on the other hand, okay, isn't he a pastor? Or no, Will Duffy. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he teaches his congregation that the Bible says it's okay to lie.
Don't go there, all right, Matthew, because you know that is That is so wrong. You know that he's saying
I know.
that it's okay to lie to save someone's life. You know that.
No, we got to go take a look at that again.
And there are stories in the Bible that convey the same message, where people do lie, and in fact, God lies when He tells Adam and Eve that eating from this tree will kill them.
Wait.
That turns out not to be
God
true.
lied?
Anyway,
You said God
yes,
lied? No,
yes.
no.
But
Death
before we go,
entered
before we
mankind
do the
when they ate
critique
the
of
fruit.
the Old Testament,
They didn't
No,
die.
really
but
quick,
anyway,
really quick. They were going to have eternal life. That's how death and sickness entered the world. Tony, you got to read the Bible, man.
Well, we'll just skip the Will Duffy thing. Kango44 says, did the flat earth, we got that. Burnham says, for Matt, since everything can be faked, can you only assert the earth, quote, might be flat, unquote, since acquiring evidence is impossible?
Well, I think people should just think for themselves. And I mean, yeah, I used to believe the globe theory, but over time it just turned out to be a lie, and I could see way too far, and I realized the earth was not moving. So that's important.
This one from Jay Bones says, why are so many flat earthers turning on each other? All right, let's get into the juicy drama in the flat earth world. Is this true?
Well, it turned out that there were shills. There were agents that were manipulating public perception.
Matthew, are you sure?
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sorry,
Watch. You don't think so? You think they're all legit? How they all just magically started mocking flat earthers and becoming globers? You didn't see that was weird? You didn't notice how over the summer those guys changed? What happened over the summer?
Bro, I don't know about you guys. I get people who ask me, they say, you host those flat earth debates. Are they for real? And Matthew, you're for real right now.
James, I don't understand why you think I'm trolling you, dude. I look at the final experiment like it's just a production. It just looks like
hard to pick it, Matthew.
So let me,
you don't have
if
to
I
hate
can,
me for
James, just to explain for James's benefit. So Matthew is saying that the final experiment was fraud. It's a fake, that everything in it was not real. Therefore, his conclusion is that the flat earthers who participated in that and who are saying it's not fake must therefore not be real flat earthers. So Whitsitt, Jaron, Lisbeth, and is it Malcolm are not real flat earthers. That must logically be Matthew's conclusion.
Well, I mean, I don't know Lee's Beth. She's very beautiful, but I don't know who she is. Never heard of her before. Jaron has a history of being involved with mockumentaries. Okay, he's got a history with that. And the thing with Whitsitt, yeah, he changed. He changed over the summer. It's just what I'm observing. When I put all of this together, it's like, wow, there's something very big. There was a big deception that was being put on the people, and it failed.
You just want to believe that, don't you?
Well, I said on this show, I will consider anything they produce.
No, you won't.
I said it on this show. But what they produced was green screen glitches, other anomalies like no shadow being cast from the mountain. Then some videos it does have it. It's just bogus.
Do you want me to prove that you just said something untrue to us all? You said that you would consider it. You won't. No,
I did. I watched the video. I watched the video.
You won't consider it because Tony gave you ample evidence. I gave you evidence. I told you about the sun visible south of Punta Arenas at midnight. I told you about that. I described how the sun goes around the Tropic of Capricorn, and yet I can see it while I'm facing the southeast. That's impossible. All those things are impossible, and you will not consider these things. You will not consider that those Starlink satellites are moving 10 times faster than any fighter jet. No fuel. No flight surfaces, no flight controls. What the hell? How are they doing that in the air?
Listen, I just told you the government.
You won't consider it.
Videos of that. I did consider it.
No, you didn't. You just said no.
When you were
your
talking about the
consideration was
sun,
just nuh-uh.
wait, when you were talking
Okay.
about the sun, I told you that south of the equator, there is this perspective distortion that takes place, and our
But-
own observational field will warp the path of the lights above us.
Okay,
This is
so-
what you
just
said. I
gobbledygook.
considered, no, it's not. You're
But-
trying
Yes,
to
it is.
dismiss what I said, but I'm.
But
I'm
it,
really-
but it
what
has
you
to
said.
be, that distortion happens in the northern hemisphere too, right? Because
No,
the same argument can be made.
No, the observers that see Polaris.
I
they see
was
it in
still
its spot.
talking. I was going to explain my point.
Okay.
If we have an observer who's north of the Tropic of Cancer, right, they will see at the summer solstice, they will see the sun rise in the northeast and set in the northwest. So the
Okay.
same distortion has to be happening in the northern hemisphere, right?
Okay, well, what happens? The observer in the north will see the distortion as the sun crosses the equator. During that time of the year, if you study the analemma, you will see that the sun does like a flip, like some kind of fake flip almost.
Do you accept that there must be a distortion in the northern hemisphere for northern hemisphere observers
James,
to
we
see
better
the
press
sun
on.
rise in the northeast and set in the northwest?
No, what happens is it
Might-
happens at the equator. If you're
We
on
better
one
press on.
longitude
We better press-
line, if
Yep.
you're say at the North Pole, you'll see Polaris directly above you and all the stars making
That's
circle
immaterial
around
to the
We-
question that I asked, but
we
let's
have-
move
listen,
on.
I
Let's
do-
let's
I
move
do-
on.
south
Let's
on the
move on.
longitude-
I just want to
No, let me
I do want to point people to our guest links. Folks, this is just the beginning. Modern Day Debate is not meant to be where you make up your mind about these things. This is like just an first step in a huge journey of researching these topics. You can research these topics. You can learn more about these topics. You can check out our guest links in the description box right now. And that includes at the podcast. We put our guest links in the description box at the podcast too. Because, folks, if you didn't know, Modern Day Debate has all of our debates uploaded to the podcast within 24 hours of them being live. So check out our guest links. We do want to say they are the lifeblood of the channel. We appreciate their flexibility. We appreciate them being here. We do sincerely. I appreciate you guys, Matthew, PhDTony, and Phil. Thanks for being with us tonight. That's actually the last of our questions, but so thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having me. And I understand that we sort of talked over one another a little bit at times, but overall, I thought this was really civil. Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you, James, for organizing it. Thank you to Tacori for turning up, and thank you to the audience. Much appreciated. So, yeah.
Right, my turn. So basically, for the people out there who are the audience, and especially those people who are in danger of actually becoming victims of flat Earth. Okay, I want you to consider what was heard tonight. I want you to consider all the things that, you heard some evidence. Okay. Tony is a serious person. I'm a serious person. We've got no business trying to troll you or tell you things that are not right. Okay. So listen to the arguments that were made tonight. Listen to how the counter to those arguments were nothing but just beliefs. Maybe it could be this, maybe it could be that. What could those Starlink satellites? It didn't matter that we're told that these Starlink satellites were were put there by a rocket. They weren't there before the rocket turned up, and then all of a sudden they're there. But they balloons. But they just mysteriously. But we don't know what they are. We don't know what the lights are. But hang on, the rocket took them there. So those people sitting on the fence, consider these things, okay? Consider these things when you're reflecting back on this debate, because this debate is about providing information, okay? All right, I hope we've done that for you. Thank you, James.
Thank you. And Matthew, I'll give you a very quick last word since you don't have a partner. So we'll give
Like
you
a
the
final
last word.
statement. Oh,
James, I have one
okay.
thing to say for Will, by the way, if you can let me finish it at the end, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So
Go ahead.
so
Can I go?
this
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
you go, and then James, if you address me at the end, please.
You bet.
Or just keep going. Just keep talking, dude. You got the
Matthew
floor.
I think it's like it's unrelated or it's less related. So
It's
I think he
unrelated,
wants you
yes.
to go ahead and wrap up because yours will be
Okay.
more central.
Oh, yeah, I want to say, yeah, big shout out to all the flat earthers out there, all my friends. Keep doing everything you're doing. People borrowing air, thank God they're still breathing. Yeah, I just want to say, flat earthers, keep doing what you're doing. Keep making videos, demonstrations. I want to see more flat earthers on this show. Okay, get on the show, debate. Flat Earth is the biggest threat to the New World Order, to this whole corrupt, satanic, reptilian, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? All this evil stuff. Flat Earth is the thing that is uniting people across the board. It's uniting Christian, Jewish, Muslim, atheists. There's even gay people, trans people. Flat Earth is uniting people. And it's all honest people that are rejecting this narrative, this satanic narrative to trap your mind on a stupid spinning ball, to tell you you are an ape man on a spinning ball going faster than the speed of sound, whirling around. And yeah, I'm sorry to the other debaters, but yeah, I just disagree with you guys. I disagree with everything you said. I appreciate that you guys were polite with me, and I hope I was polite with you guys. And that's it. Much love, James.
Thank you.
But
May
James
I-
has perspective.
We'll jump
Sorry.
to Phil. I think Phil had something to say about
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Duffy.
So this is really important for everybody, because you know that that those people that did go down to Antarctica actually had some very historic moments there, and I seriously mean that. They're historic things that have never been done before, especially some of those experiments. I mean, one of the most amazing ones was the ones done by Wes Wally, by MC2, like the
Critical Think, I
and
think.
critical, and the one by Critical Think, just absolutely fantastic experiments. So now these things are being highlighted by Pastor Will Duffy on a various shows. So he's making a series of shows. Please have a look at these shows. Please follow them, because you're in the awesome time in history where so much is happening in science, and then even underlying all of that, we have some very basic experiments that show you that show you why there are so many people, why so many people over so many thousands of years have believed these things. So I encourage you to follow Pastor Will Duffy's videos that are coming up soon. Thank you very much, James, and thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Sorry, I did want to say something in terms of a final thought other than just thank you. Is that okay, James? It'll be quick.
Sure. I mean, I was going to give the last word to Matthew because he doesn't have a partner here.
Yep. Okay.
But if you want, and then so
it's
if you want
just
to go,
it's
then we'll
just
give Matthew a last word.
it's just that if you know that somebody is wrong before they've even presented the evidence, that's a very dangerous mindset. If you think that somebody is lying before you've assessed the quality of the evidence they have for their conclusion, I think you're in a very dangerous mindset. And I would just advise people in the audience to follow Matthew's advice. Keep an open mind, assess the evidence objectively, rather than basing your judgments on who or what or what their properties are. Just follow evidence, and it'll work out for you.
Matthew, if you want a quick last
Totally agree.
word, a second last word,
Yeah,
give you
a
that
second
fast.
last word. Okay, James, I'm looking at your shirt. Is that Kevin Sorbo Hercules?
As a matter of fact, it is. Thank you for noticing.
That's pretty cool. And you know what I remember about the end credits of that show? Do you remember
What?
about the end credits? There's a company called Flat Earth Production or something. Like if you watch the end credits of that, I think it's like a New Zealand company, like a production company. It says Flat Earth at the end of it.
That's pretty interesting.
Check the
Okay,
credits.
I mean,
Check
I
the
guess that
credits.
proves it. We might as well a
No, it's just a little
checkmate,
silly.
PhDTony and Professor Phil. It's
Yep. Checkmate, guys.
but But for real, folks, check out our guests. We do appreciate them. They're the lifeblood of the channel, so we do check them out. I'll be back in a moment to let you guys know about folks in the audience about the upcoming conference, so stick around. I'll be back in about 20 seconds.